The world is very different now. For man holds in his mortal hand the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
It begins a very special time of the year for us. It's the time of peace and reflection. One thing we should all be thankful for is that we live in America, where we have the freedom to change things and the opportunity to grow.
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
that you will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
And will, to the best of your ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
What up, everybody? Welcome to a happy Sunday night that we're enjoying together.
Check.
Yeah, I'm Andreas Xirtus. I'm on the bottom of the screen somehow.
Did I successfully unmute myself today?
Yeah, you're doing good.
Woo!
I Drop Bits is here.
I
with
can
us,
have
Evan.
computer.
Yeah, Brittany, how are you? What's up?
I'm doing all right.
Dude, so a couple random things just to not talk about the news for a second. Let me see here. I went to this site. What was it? Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go deep into this, but Dudley Buck's Forgotten Cryotron is really interesting. There's this computer that was made out of electromagnets, and like he died making it. And he invented this thing called the cryotron, which is his crystal field theory. And it's all about superconductivity. Something I'll wrap my head around later, but I just kind of wanted to
I already have a
introduce you.
conspiracy theory.
How
I
did
already
he
have a
die?
conspiracy theory about it.
Yeah,
Instantly.
go ahead. Sure, yeah.
Boston has historically needed reasons to
Fun fact, he was in Boston. This was MIT.
to launder. Yeah, Boston and Boston. Yeah, to launder cold fluid. The big dig recently, we supposedly froze a bunch of land to dig it out. But it's how do you transport nuclear material without it being detected? Is you freeze it so it stops emitting for a second, and then it crosses the lines and it doesn't emit so much, but then it cools down and it. Yeah, Boston has always had a history of strangely needing lots of this stuff, either to keep it cold. And what we're doing is we're testing the nuclear batteries for use in like space and stuff.
Right. Yeah,
That
the
exists.
superconducting, it's a bimetallic magnet, and it creates two magnetic fields that destroy superconductivity. And also using tantalum wire and niobium, creating a coil. So it's kind of like a light bulb, but it's made out of tantalum and
You
niobium.
said you were gonna save it for later, Andreas.
I know. I'm sorry. I just wanted to show you though, because Brittany asked how he died, like, and that's all part of how he died. But you're right.
Wait,
that
we all
that
know,
was all superfluous. That was superfluous, and
I didn't know if he was like suicide.
We all know that
he ended
the
up,
safest way
killing
to
himself.
survive a nuclear winter is to buy iodine from Alex Jones, because he's hoarding the market like the brothers did for silver. You have to put on 8 pairs of sunglasses and ski goggles, and then we'll be safe. Right, Daddy? Daddy, the nuclear warfare can't get me if I hide under my desk, right?
Right. Well, I mean,
good.
it was
Thank
because
you,
he was.
Daddy.
It was because he was using.
I watched Clifford today, and there's actually a dinosaur named Stefan in it. So go ahead.
Oh, like the new Clifford or like the original? Clifford?
Martin Short Clifford. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The better. I mean,
Daddy, tell me the nuclear man can't come.
That's a terrifying movie.
Here,
But
wanna
these
hear the
micro,
best-
these
the
micro
best threat from
machines gave
Putin?
him nanotoxicity. Is the deal?
Putin should have this translated back from
Which
English.
which
He's
Clifford
going to
is
try and
that?
say Ukraine and America. I'm going to
Is it
make
a
your
80s
currency
version?
into a collector's item. How about that? Your current
Okay.
It's a movie.
going
It's a
to
movie.
become
No one should really watch this
a
movie
collector's item.
Oh yeah. No, I've seen that.
unless
He's
you're a kid
super
and you're trying.
short,
If
or-
you're a
wait
kid and you've
minute.
been bad, I feel like any kid who's been
Wait a
bad, the
minute.
discipline should be that you watch Clifford and
I
you see
think I
like what you're
blacked
doing.
this out.
It's a movie
This
about a kid
movie,
who's
I've
just.
seen it.
It's a movie about a
Larry,
kid.
the scary Rex. He's a
And
great
he's
big
shorter than
dinosaur, but don't be afraid of his sharp
everybody.
teeth
Oh,
or
I
his
remember
mighty
this.
roar. Yeah.
This would be more of a Canada thing to talk about, but he is because he's Martin Short. But the thing is, he's a horrible child, and how children destroy the lives of adults. That's kind of.
Well, he was just willing to do anything to achieve his dream. He crashed a plane and a car and a family in order to get to go to Dinosaur World.
Yeah, he looks,
And he each time before he did it, he said, "You saw what I just did. You're gonna tell me no again?"
Right. That's true. Well, okay, so nanotoxicity, crystal field theory. The last thing I was gonna say was
At
Apple
one point,
Navigator.
the dad turns to him. He goes, "Imagine if I gave you plutonium. You'd
Well,
build me such a good bomb, wouldn't you?"
No,
Because that's
no more spoilers. You're not allowed to spoil Clifford. People need to watch Clifford. That's as much as they're allowed. Okay, but really quickly, and I'll move on from my computer fetishist like obsession. In 1984 to 87, Apple went into the hands of Pepsi as they got rid of Steve Jobs, and they had new dreams. And something that you might not have seen is the 1987 video for the iPad, the ancient 80s version of it anyway, called the Knowledge Navigator. And it's got Siri. It can read, it can write, it can do anything. And yeah, basically it's the tablet design with Wi-Fi, and they have cameras in it. And it just showed you how they had this 20, 30, 40 years before everyone else was allowed to use it, and how they were going to have these network systems, but it was shut down. Kind of a bummer. All right, I'm done with
what
computers.
about if you're talking ads? Do you have that Super Bowl ad?
Oh, the 1984 Super Bowl ad? I guess, I mean, so some
You
people might
can't
not
show
know
it?
this. I can show
I
you
didn't.
part.
I had no idea because I didn't watch the Super Bowl that year, maybe, or I never saw the commercial.
I
again.
can at least allude to what is the importance of it is, right? So you've got literal skinheads as extras in the ad because they just didn't care. It was for the aesthetic. And I'm not kidding. And that was like a company secret for years. But then they have them watching 1984, and they're like, "We shall prevail." The Orwell Big Brother's there. And there's this Olympic jogger lady wearing these awesome Nike running shorts. And I don't know if it has
in
to
like
do with
the
Apple's.
Baywatch colors.
I want to make like a suggestion that Apple's name has to do with the House of Orange and Venture Rockefeller Venrock's association with the House of Orange. But that is why I think her outfit is orange like that.
Really?
But yeah, so 1984 won't be like 1984, but isn't this Orwellian doublespeak? I don't know. I'm not sure. Point is that Rainbow Apple has to do with the Macintosh because it's a kind of apple. And then this intro, they're even using the Metropolis 1927 Metropolis Fritz Lang in intro. So it's a combination of ideas that they're trying to give you to say that 1984 will change. Did the Macintosh succeed? No, they overpriced it and made sure people couldn't buy it, and it was a big bummer. But there's that. I don't know. But yeah, Brittany, you were gonna say something. Oh wait,
No.
Are you miming? Is Stefan miming? Oh man, he's trying to eat an apple. He's doing the thing with there's a button there.
Yeah, I said if I'm ever cutting in and out, at least someone give me the hand signal. Thank you. I made so many good jokes. You missed them all. I was singing and everything.
Wait, but
Do it again.
do it
again.
Right? Yeah, entertain me. Yeah.
We're
ready.
I'll wind it back.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
do it. So here's the thing. Jones says, according to his experience, he has a lot of historically before Radio Shack closed. Sorry, I don't know what that code actually meant, but he said 5 seconds of dead air. And then all the engineers are running into the room next door. And there's some sort of timer. He thinks it's 5 seconds. And so he said, I'm going to watch. He ended up tapping his pen. He couldn't bring himself to actually. Because for all we know, that's the new code, is if Alex Jones' broadcast ever actually goes silent for 5 seconds. Because he never shuts up like me,
Yeah, I mean, you can't imagine Alex Jones dead air.
But you learn one thing at a time. Dead air's okay. Pacing is what we're working on. It's not about speed or chronology or timestamps. It's pacing.
I'm gonna try and help keep the pace tonight.
Well, yeah. Speaking of which, you've got some.
Do you have a bell or a dinger?
Ding.
It would be
You could
funny
definitely-
for you to call us on it. That were to have.
I should get some.
Every time I
type of,
make a good
like-
joke, instead of laughing because your face will hurt, there has to be some sort of like kablowy effect. Or
You sent me this though, Brittany. 10 ancient cities lost in history, lost but not forgotten. Do
Well,
you
no,
have
this is just anybody that's looking at the news will see that every other day there's like a 5-year-old discovers buried city in his parents' backyard, leaves archaeologists baffled, you know.
You
So
mean
they're
like
doing
the
these
whole
like,
Earth was inhabited by trillions of people? Wow.
yeah, so they're just,
Actually,
it's
a good
becoming
sign.
public knowledge. All this stuff we've been researching for the last, well,
We're on
a lot
the
of
dead
people
cat,
for more
we're on
years
the
than
dead cat
I,
bounce of the
but
population collapse.
they're releasing this information now, so it's probably just going to replace the narrative, and the narrative will be the things that we've been discovering about buried cities and petrification and instant, you know, we have cities that are turned into stone
To
and
be
whatnot.
fair,
So I
I've
mean, just some interesting
yeah.
articles. Keep your eyes peeled and you'll be like, oh, I heard about this a few years ago, and now they're
But
making
you were asking
it
me what I wanted to
accepted
cover, and that's kind of
knowledge.
the theme, is that what used to be put forward as fact is all now lies. And the things that were put forward as kind of things that were pseudoscience and fake aren't real themselves, but they're there to show you the third corner of the triangle and make you smile inside and feel wise. Like there's a guy who 10,000 years ago told you a joke and you just got it.
I mean, it's interesting. They've got these buildings over. I remember when I was in Spain, they had all these parking structures and like corporate buildings built over ruin site. They just have these pillars like this, and then the buildings are above it. But then you can go underneath the building, and there's no parking because there's an ancient city, which is fun.
Yeah, and then the sinkholes that have the interesting dimensions. I sent
Like
you
the
another
parking
article
spaces
just
are all
on the what is it? Sinkholes that are actual. They're not just an anomaly. They're stinking because it used to be this, and then connected to that is a whole city that we didn't know existed. So they're connecting some sinkholes and
I blame fracking.
to discover.
I think pushing thousands of pounds of pressure into layers thousands of feet deep, that we definitely know all about what we're doing.
Well, here's this is the fracking thing. Sinkhole in the heart of Rome leads to discovery of ancient ruins. Whoa, this just happened. Dang. Okay, it didn't look that big to me until I looked closer and I see the size of people. This is a lot bigger. This is a further.
You're
back
talking about
picture.
surface area. The big sinkholes though are like a mile deep.
Right.
Depending on the depth, and they're all different. So there should
What was
be
the
a
line
bunch of
from
different
Marvel? I was
subcategories.
falling for half an hour. Sorry,
Sinkholes. Because I'm sure there's very different kinds.
Brittany, repeat what you said. Sorry, I missed
There
that.
should be different like subcategories almost for sinkholes. How did it happen? How deep is it? Can they be identified into subcategories? I haven't studied sinkholes, but I'm sure sinkhole experts, they have them probably identified and then put into subcategories of how they.
I mean, have you heard of the Hubble classification system for galaxy formation?
Could be
Anybody?
something like
Bueller?
that.
Anybody? And again, it's a model and it's accepted for a long time because there's a prestigious name like Hubble on it. But scientists now admit we don't know that this galaxy changed. It's like, yes, we have pictures of galaxies that are all like variants away from each other, but we don't know that this one is in the process of, in 200 million years, the third arm will turn into a fourth arm.
So, I mean, like, but if volcanoes have like fossil fuel in them or something and they're exploding, isn't fracking them kind of a good thing? Look at this one. Massive sinkhole in New Zealand exposes traces of an ancient volcano.
An ancient power plant,
Right.
possibly, instead of volcano.
Are these
Which is
things
my
just pent
theory.
up and they need to be released?
I heard of superfoods. Is that what a power plant is?
Can we all relate?
Aha.
I'm
Didn't.
here with the dad jokes all day. Like if you're wondering what to expect, and then there's some that I have that are terrible. I didn't clear them necessarily with Andreas before, but I warned him.
There was a guy, I think
And they're not racist. Yeah.
Dick Van Dyke had a beatnik that he used to, and Maury Amsterdam both. They'd have a beatnik that they would read jokes to, and before they did their 58 1960s TV shows. And if the beatnik laughed, they would know to cut the joke out because it was too hip. But if he made like a pompous face, they're like, all right, that'll work because that'll hit America. So I don't know, but
My friend last
subterranean-
minute took me
Oh, yeah.
to a Jon Stewart and Dave Chappelle comedy performance in Boston at the Wilbur Theater. And there was one joke that John told. And as soon as he finished telling it, I was up in the mezzanine and laughed really loud and kind of held back even half a second because I could see where the joke was. I hadn't heard it before, but everyone else started laughing. It was just a full half second later. And I'm going, I smoked too much weed. You can see the future.
Was
They
it a
tell
good
you-
show, by the way, from start to finish? Was it a good show? And when was this? If you were
And the fact that it was a surprise and I got to go for free. And
well, Chappelle, when did you watch him perform? Before or after he
it was
went missing
maybe
or
like
left.
4 years ago at this point.
Okay.
Yes.
So after he came back from his
Yes, it was long
journey.
after that. It was
Took a
his
sabbatical.
brolic phase, right? He started smoking cigarettes on stage and got fit. Instead of being the crackhead from How High, or no, what was it? Half Baked. He was or in his own show.
I really enjoyed
But
his comedy was good. Chappelle Show.
A thick boy, strong boy, stronger than me.
All right,
You
I
made me
know
laugh.
that this is like not Chappelle, so it's not going to excite you as much. But
Sorry.
the sinkhole story was getting me kind of excited.
Yeah, sorry, I'm the one that. Yeah,
No,
that's.
no, no,
I'm
no, no,
very
no.
excited about
I
sinkholes.
just read something about
Tell me
it.
to spin my
so-
fidget spinner. If I start interrupting, say, Stefan, spin your fidget spinner. Good
Fidget.
boy.
Go ahead and fidget.
You're not
No,
allowed to
it's-
talk until it's done spinning.
All right, well, I'm going to read it for 20 seconds. We'll just see how it goes. In April 2020, a sinkhole formed in front of the historic Pantheon in Rome, Italy. While the sinkhole itself was a marvel to look at, what was truly amazing was what was discovered beneath the earth. What the archaeology team found not only provides us with a glimpse of Rome's ancient past, but begs the question of what other incredible discoveries lie just beneath the feet of the thousands of residents and tourists that walk the streets of the city each day. Right in front of the Pantheon, the sinkhole that appeared in the middle of the Rome was discovered in front of the Pantheon, a house of worship used continuously since it was first constructed back in 117 AD. It is located in Rome's Piazza della Rotunda, which is exactly where a 10 square foot section of the earth collapsed on itself, opening a hole in the ground. After the sinkhole emerged, nobody knew exactly what the archaeologists would find once they began to sift through the rubble. Although the sinkhole in front of the Pantheon can be considered unique, sinkholes around Rome aren't all that uncommon. This is mainly because the city is so old that all ancient quarries, tunnels, and catacombs built in the past eventually collapsed after all those thousands of years. Particularly in the East region, Rome has countless hidden cavities beneath the cobblestone streets that can be used to mine, which used to be mined, which are now full of history and waiting to be discovered. They never seem to end. They go hundreds of miles, basically, is the deal. And if you look, I'm going to just skip this for a second.
And then-
Go to Rome volcano, because I know there's a
You gave the
Rome's built
dimensions
on-
of that
Rome's
too.
built
It's
on a volcano.
the 10. Was it 10? The dimensions, the length of not the depth.
So Rome is built on a dead volcano, which is erupting soon, theoretically. Not a real dead volcano, but like a super ancient one. And there's a bunch of volcanoes in Rome, in Italy, including Campi Flegrei. And so a volcano outside of Rome, long thought extinct, is rumbling to life, but don't panic. The volcano isn't likely to blow its top for another 1,000 years, give or take, right? Colby Albani is a volcanic complex of hills. Colby Albani is a complex of hills located 19 miles from the center of Rome. There are no historic records of eruptions from Colby Albani, but that's the joke, right?
I would say there probably are if you look into like military records and the back arc data. I don't know, but the dimensions I think are really important for people to start looking at. So, which is why I started to think that some volcanoes were possibly related to being buried power plants, because your magma chamber, that's the enclosed chamber, and the dimensions of certain types of magma chambers, depending on the type of volcano, are very synced to different types of power plants and different sizes and how they are structured, from salt mines to uranium to natural reactors to nuclear reactors and whatnot. So that's not for tonight, but if people are watching, I wanted them to start to look at the anomalies, maybe they call them, with dimensions and compare if there's, I don't know, they're thinking those ways. I don't know enough about sinkholes to know how they're classified or identified, or if they're broken down into further categories like how they do with volcanoes or not, but all right.
Yeah, there was also the fact that it was destroyed by a fire, and they rebuilt the temple on top of it, and it was destroyed by a lightning strike, struck by lightning. So kind of a weird spot.
Ooh, lightning. Oh,
Lightning
was it
striking
directed
volcano.
energy technology.
That's
Just kidding.
So well, I know. I mean, go ahead, but
No, they talk
hey,
about
if you're trying to
lasers.
talk, Stefan, you gotta unmute again. That's the thing.
Perfect.
I
was
pushed
saying-
the ask to unmute button because I thought it would be like more British, but it didn't work.
And it's hidden from me on my screen. Yeah.
Oh,
You guys are
the
actually up
irony.
on a huge screen. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Nice. Nice.
I'll give you guys a tour and spin eventually. But what I was saying was, and again, yeah, thank you for at least letting me know. You could have gone the rest of the podcast. Doing pantomiming and
Honestly,
well, you know,
you're a
I'm
good
signaling
pantomime.
out the nuclear codes to Putin's. Sorry. Anyway, it goes YMC. Sorry.
That's clearly how it goes.
And when I think about you, so
Wait,
what, there was a
the
point
power
there. I swear.
volcano was it the volcano powered directed energy weapon? The sinkhole.
Oh, I was saying,
lightning.
Oh, blue hole. The blue hole. So
Like
the blue hole, if you type again, there's only one that's really known as the blue
Oh,
hole. and
the
it's-
deep
it's
blue
the
hole, yeah.
sinkhole. And they
Yeah.
don't know how it was formed, but they know how big it is, and they know that there's sharks that live in there, and they still take people down inside. Now, the sharks kept circling closer and closer, and finding the one that looked in distress because he didn't know how to use his BCD properly. But yeah, I was dumb enough to. What was I thinking? Going anywhere near that, like that could pop.
Oh,
what? And it's full of sharks.
Did you go into this one? You went into the sinkhole?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
missed that part. You were I think you were muted when you were telling the pre-story to that.
You're hearing it
Yeah,
live
I-
and direct now.
That's crazy, man. I've
What was
read
I
about it. I've
thinking?
seen some videos of the thing, but I was always like, no, I don't want to do that. Because the thing is, I've heard it pulls you deep too.
Guess which one is me?
Bro, nice. That's like full on, like, look at the Muppet that's in the Rock Band with like the big, awesome, like yarn hair. But yours
Dive
is like,
instructors really. I'm surprised the sharks weren't more interested in your hair. Like they might have thought it was an octopus. And I was like, I asked you before, should I put my hair in a tam or not? And you guys were like, you're good. And during the night dives, there's bloodworms, and like the top 5 feet of water is just, you can't really see through it. It's tropical water, but it's just this swimming mess. And if you get in there with your flashlight, everything is just. And somehow on the last day, I had people look through my hair and nothing living inside.
What's
man,
the
some of these
narrative and how
pictures-
that was formed or how it came to be? Anything on the origin of the
We
blue
found it that way, and
hole?
it hasn't killed us yet.
Yeah, it's super deep, and we don't know how deep it goes, right? Isn't that the deal? Like,
Well,
we don't
the thing
even
is, there's
know-
a floor, and like maybe there's a version of an octopus, like from Die, Live, Repeat, or was the Tom Cruise one where
it's like you're just the head of the octopus.
Yeah,
so
you
it
don't
could've- yeah,
you don't want to
yeah.
drop even like one thing through it, because then like one could stink one tentacle up, find a fish, and be like, whistle for the boys, and then 1,000,000,000 octopus that live in the center of the earth come out and eat everything on land once every 10,000
But
years. And if you're lucky, you
Where is
survive.
this geographically? Like
Belize. You
located?
better believe it.
Yeah, British Honduras. But it makes you wonder because
Feel
also
like
the
I
thing.
should know.
Oh, go ahead. What you
Sorry,
say?
no,
Brittany?
I just
So when you
I-
have a camera and you put it in a shark's face, you're like, I wonder what happens if I put the flash on and squeeze it right when it gets close. It's not going to agitate it or anything, right?
They don't have like electrical sensors looking for. Yeah, I mean, like I feel like sharks are designed to hunt robots. If you think about it, they actually have the capacity to look for electrical impulses. That's more than most.
That's a
life forms can
lionfish
say.
invasive with poison tips. And again, I'm way too close to that. It could just charge and stick me and it would suck.
What's the deal with sharks? Sharks electro. You know what I'm talking about? They're electrosensorial.
They've got like holes that, yeah.
electroreception.
they let you go for a reason.
Sharks have electroreception, which to me means basically that they must have hunted Terminators 100 million years ago. That's the only logical explanation that they would have electroreception, as far as I can tell. But pretty amazing, and it's terrifying. Probably the most terrifying thing about the shark, really. I mean, look at that. Look at these like drawings of radio waves coming out of a shark. Like,
It
what do
means
you
there's a
even-
lot of ways
They
to
give
piss them
off or they
Yeah.
receive. They have. You said
Yes,
reception.
Brittany. Yes, they have
Those.
transceivers. They have transceivers. They're able to give off.
They
and
give off
receive.
and receive message.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, isn't that what we
arguably everything gives off bio?
I know, but they can
electromagnetic field
target
feedback.
something and direct
Oh yeah.
an electric shock at it.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Here we go.
So this is
magnetic
one of
north,
the
induce
holographic
electrical
principles.
currents,
Hold on, let's
velocity.
slow
of
down and
earth pressure.
acknowledge what Brittany just brought up as something
Yeah.
right. It's a good question, and the answer is usually yes and yes, and that's not just because you're trying to be a politician, but right, were they receivers or transmitters? And the answer is usually both. So I'm just going to draw a quick parallel, and at the end, your brain's going to go offline because it does not compute. But so if a dynamo is a generator, again, there's only 15 seconds. A dynamo is a generator, and you wire it another way, generator becomes a dynamo, electrical motor, right? Old school telephone, you could take the speaker, rewire it, and just shout into it, and it becomes a microphone. Who knew that, right? But so if it is a speaker, it's a microphone, a micro speaker, a generator, a motor. So if a screen projects an image. And we think our camera is the little thing up top. In reality, 1 out of every 20,000 pixels is a little laser emitting diode that, we know there's the one that scans our face for face match, but your screens, you can tape off, you'd have to tape off the whole screen, in which case you couldn't use the screen.
Dude,
but yes, this is now being acknowledged in public that they're working on it, as opposed to has been in place since the beginning. But how scary is that? Do you ever feel comfortable?
Do you see this thing called shark bands? There's
the
like
older your monitor, the probably worse it is. But go ahead, yeah, please.
Sorry, I just never.
But that was that was the end of the. If it's a receiver, it's a transmitter, and
right, yeah.
The scary part was, I have the black hood.
You can actually use a crystal radio set or a walkie-talkie. Like that's the point. Yeah, and energy flows both ways in and out of a turning turbine. You can turn it.
Don't tell your kids that. They'll never feel comfortable around anything ever again.
Energy in, energy out.
Screens are cameras, really, really high definition cameras. It's pretty messed up.
Well, they're going to be more high definition as they have higher. Right now, they're arguably low compared to where they're going. The monitors. Your monitor is a camera. That's what a touchscreen is. But it could be 6 to 8K.
Or are we just back engineering the one we actually found?
Yeah.
Though, and
then we're going to
get back
exactly
to the original standard.
Then you get back to the point where we're getting with the thumb scanner and the phone and everything. But okay, so shark bands, they've created this patented magnetic technology. I don't know if this is like
this is for Logan and Jake Paul, by the way.
Let me look at this again. Show us again. Show us again.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
Clickbait.
A game. I haven't opened it, but I bought it years ago.
Yeah.
Selling pointless products, one trashy line at a time. And be like, come up with logo.
But it says sharks have the strongest electroreception sensitivity to electric fields in the animal kingdom. They use this unique capability to navigate at night while in murky water and to hunt. Their electroreceptors ampullae of Lorenzini and lateral line canals connect to the seawater by pores on their snout and other zones of the head. When a fish swims or even moves in its gills, it creates a change in the surrounding geomagnetic field that sharks could detect with these electrically sensitive gel-filled canals. Since the shark is tuned to be looking for very weak electromagnetic signals from its prey, heartbeats, muscle movements, this organ is highly sensitive. When encountered in the wild,
what do they say about water in the Caribbean? It's clear. And how clear is it, guys?
Crystal, right?
Boom, Andreas, 2 points. So if something's crystal,
Jinx, you can't talk till I say your name.
That's
Andreas.
All right.
Oh,
anyway.
I thought it was my job to shut up for. By the way, shout out to Math Powerland. I bought this from him way back in the day.
Wow.
One of the original flat earthers. Should have been on Rogan and CNN long ago. So what was the joke I just made, or what was the interjection I really
You're talking
made?
about crystal clear water. I wanted to also say.
So yeah, why should you not feel safe when you don't see the shark? So what we were told is if the shark swims right by you, it's not afraid of you. And if it's not afraid of you and it's not hungry, it won't attack you, right? So if you see it, it doesn't give a fuck about you. Excuse me. And this again, these are your underwater with sharks. There's little intensity. But my friends, if you don't see the shark, it's because it's hunting you and it knows how to stay in your blind spot. And by the time you realize that you don't see it, it's too late, right? So either way, if you see a shark, it's fine. And if you don't see a shark, there's nothing you can do anyways because they move 40 times.
You just got to hit the shark on the nose. Nobody ever remembers to do that. Sorry.
To ask you with like Neuralink, is that a feature that could be put into a Neuralink type, like shark receptors?
Yeah, I mean theoretically you could mess with your geofield, but the thing is the things that are putting off the geofield are the thing. So at this point, this to me makes more sense. Having a bracelet, an anklet that is putting off like a confusing signal that's like, dude, there are like a lot of cephalopods or like boats or something big is coming. Like that's a good idea to throw off a shark with. I don't know how well it works. That could be like a bunch of nonsense. The other thing is sharks don't even really like to attack you, so it's weird that they would even want to get around you in the first place. So, but
yeah, you think they'd have a device that they can just put into one of those cages to keep sharks far away from you? based
But
on
eventually, it's like the dog. It runs through the fucking electric
frequency.
fence. Get it? And it doesn't care because it's
Right,
hungry.
that's the other thing. But what do you mean,
Your
Brittany?
dinner.
Keep the shark
I'm
in a
just saying
cage? What?
using no, just to keep sharks away using frequencies. If they have
Oh, having
heightened- I mean, they
ultrasonar,
should
yeah.
have
You're
that down.
teaching them. You're teaching them about the frequencies, but it can be a deterrent. But it's ultimately you're just pissing it. It's like putting. I want to get a closer and closer picture of the shark, and then
Right.
eventually it eats you,
Well, it's weird. Like if you go out to like the
or
channel,
it teaches its kids to hunt.
the channel
Because I
islands
call
and
dolphins
things.
and sharks in with certain frequencies.
Right. So
like
there
Clipper.
are islands where just like there are shark islands off the coast of Mavericks, off the coast of California, and Channel Islands have like just it's a seagull population. Humans aren't even really allowed to go there. And it's just so that there's a place where they can have their eggs undisturbed and a bunch of local species can breed without things trampling their eggs. And then sharks come around those islands all the time. And
So
so
you're
those are-
saying that we can't kill the sharks because the sharks are. This is a Russell
Well,
Brand.
I like
He does it at least
sharks
twice
for the
a video
most
where he
part.
pretends to be his mother drinking and blaming it on him or something.
It
I don't know
sucks
if it's
because like
his
sharks
actual
have killed like friends of mine, literally in plural. So it's horrible. But at the end of the day, I think sharks are important.
Didn't you
They
just
need to
say all you
exist.
had to do is watch them and punch them in the nose?
Sharks
I think
are
that's
okay.
so a lot of times sharks are a lot smaller than people realize. A lot of sharks are about the size of a human, and smaller, like half the size or like a kid's size. And if you turn a shark upside down, it turns off. It just goes into
Some
the
of them.
sleep mode.
Torpor,
Thing.
yeah.
Yeah. And
What
if you
about-
punch a shark in the nose, they usually freak out and get confused, and you can get away
Yes.
from a shark.
Unless it's a shark actor that you're dealing
What
with.
if you have a knife
because
and
we
stab
have
it in the
those-
nose too? That's it'll fuck it up.
unfortunately, like there's all kinds of weird circumstances. Like, so the first time I have a friend my friend's mom, when I was like 10, junior lifeguards, she was surfing
Sorry,
and
I'm
her
getting
foot got cut
money
by
for
a dead.
Andreas from the Dental Association. Sorry.
Oh,
Go ahead.
base. No, but she got her foot cut by a dead shark, which was just the weirdest thing that could have happened. Like it was like her foot drug across the tooth and mouth of a dead shark that had come near the coast or something like that. And so she has this epic scar, and like it cut her
Did it
really
infect
deep.
her too.
I don't know the whole story because I was super
Weird.
young. She had to
Yeah.
get taken care of. It was a big deal. But it was like, thank God that's all that happened. And then another friend, she was bit, and she was a surfer in Hawaii, but she had a menstrual cycle, is what she thinks was the reason. But I don't know, the whole deal either. It could have been other reasons. And
It's like getting
unusual.
circumcised. Nowadays, girls just get their uteruses removed before high school, and then they won't have to deal with sharks in the water. So
That would be a deterrent, yeah. And then there's also my friend recently died right at the beginning of 2020, in June or May or whatever. Maybe it was March, I forget. But because they just opened the ocean again in Santa Cruz, and they hadn't had the ocean open for
America
like,
is closed. Tom Hanks in
Go.
the movie. Sorry, ocean closed.
well, the sharks probably felt like it was back to business the way life had been. Humans had finally been shaken off. That's the only way I can imagine it.
The only
Unless it
thing
was a
safer
shark
than hiding
actor.
from the nuclear
We've
blast
had
is to wear.
people
Sorry, Brett.
trying to
What?
expose the shark actors out there. Last
Oh, right, yeah. We got to get shout out to what's his name
Nagy.
again? Nagy.
whatever
yeah.
happened to Barnabas, but
What else? I'm gonna write
he
a
did
song
show the
about
cable
that.
array, and that's an inside joke from a while ago. Sorry.
Barnabas
Continue.
Nagy. May he
As you were.
dream. Well, I had where's my thing? We had a window open with the shark thing, but there was another one. Or
Ooh,
you
do I get
had
to tell another joke? Let me know
you
when it's
had-
my turn to
you
tell
had
another joke.
you had a thing though, Stefan. You were gonna have me pull up, right? You wanted me to pull
I was gonna
up
play
this-
Chubby Bunny on air, like Adam Krigler rolls a dice.
These
and makes
many-
this is just as entertaining. Go ahead.
these many- Well, I
I'm
thought you
not
had
insulting their intelligence, but go ahead.
no. I mean, it depends on if you're insulting your own biome with who knows what's in the marshmallow. But if you want, do you have an article you wanted to pull up?
There's
'Cause I got a
nothing
couple of
inside.
things.
Look, it's just more marshmallow.
Well, if you got a thing, let me know. I'll pull it up. Otherwise, I got this other one. Dilbert comic strip is finally over.
No, I got them on ready to go, but again,
Oh,
it's your
yeah.
show.
No, you can send me stuff. Let's do it. I mean,
No, like some of the stuff we've already discussed, and just the idea is rolling it out. And the idea of pacing is putting the riddle there and then letting our audience guess for 60 seconds what it is. If they can come up with kind of the new novel solution, the one kind of the new hidden meaning, it's the meta truth. And then, appear like the wise one in the room by being the one who tells the riddle next time. But, we'll roll a couple of those out. A good example of one of those that's a real mind melter. Do you remember the one about the petrified wood and the moon, Andreas? Or
Petrified wood.
should I save it? Should I save that one?
No, let's pull this up. Petrified. I don't know if I have the link for it right off, but let's see if we can find. This
The-
is
the
a
idea-
good,
I
this
think
is
it
a
was-
good
it was
one. We've all been there before. This has
Notre
happened to
Dame.
all of us. Everyone's been through this. You know, Buzz Aldrin gets drunk, he grabs your ass, and then he gives you a moon rock, and it turns out to be petrified wood. It happens to the best of
And
us.
now leave it. So there, those are the facts. Like we're doing a fact pattern lawsuit. Okay, so those are the facts. And Brittany, well,
Brady there.
she'll send you
She'll
an
pop
emergency
back in.
text. Yeah.
She'll pop back in. But yeah, Moon Rocket Museum just petrified wood. Dutch National
So
Museum
here,
said
so
Thursday.
the goal is for the listener to go, I'm going to listen to what the accepted paradigm story is, and then I'm going to pretend I'm being interviewed by Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg.
This is accepted. This is NBC.
And that I need to not give them the right answer, but I need to show them how I can think on my feet and come up with something that's not in the article. That's like a new angle on it that kind of sheds not more truth or light, but it just helps create the wheel of meaning around the phoneme or something. Or that was definitely not even a word. So here, let's toss this back and forth. So Andreas, in the article, I think in other articles, it calls into question the provenance and the chain of custody.
right.
But what I heard,
They
is that
act like the rock might have been like switched or something. I don't know. It's kind of dodgy.
and they doubted his ability to bring back a sample that was not cataloged in NASA archives. But if I saw a rock that was anomalous on the surface of the moon, and I wasn't sure that they were going to hide it from me when I got home, right? And they were going to classify it, and then I'd never even find. So the theory is someone tucked it in their boot. So are we supposed to believe that he kept the moon rock for himself and simply wanted a tax write-off? So he donated the moon rock, and the ruse was only recently discovered. Now, hint, audience, that's the grade, I don't know, A, B, C, 1, 2. That's a lower level, obvious answer to.
Dude, this
how
is
to
just a piece
explain
of
what's going
petrified
on.
wood from Arizona. I don't care. Like, that is what it is.
And
It's
there's
objectively
two top
true.
solutions, and
I
we'll
can
get there.
say
We'll work
that.
up
We all know it's true, though. There's no question. This is NBC. This is normal news. It's mainstream. We've gotten to that point where we have to accept it. And I've been to the petrified forest in Arizona in the state park, and I've gotten some pieces of it myself.
So, Andres, have you also heard that there's an impact site on Earth where they've determined that the meteorite content inside of this crater is from Mars itself, and they found bacteria type structures in that rock, and that's one of the reasons we think that there might have been evidence for life on. So we're, audience, again, remember, soak this in. These are now juxtaposing two pieces of facts, and instead of doing it to fool you like they do in the news, again, you're going to use your own brain today. And you're going to try to come up with your own novel solution that may or may not even match what ours is, but you can pretend you're interviewing for Mensa. But
Well, here's a fun one. Mars crater may actually be ancient supervolcano. Bum, 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 bum,
but so that's on Mars.
And they have
Now I'm talking
Earth
about-
locations
right.
that
We
are
were talking
labeled
about a rock
Mars
from the moon,
as well.
and then a rock on Earth that's from Mars. So if the brain, and we're going to build the steps slowly for people, if the brain can accept blast off on Mars from an impact and it landing on Earth, and something blasting off of Earth from the petrified forest that Andreas just said he visited, and landing on the moon because he got blasted off the surface. Oh,
Hi.
You got muted there for a second.
I think because is he derobing here? He's taking your sweatshirt off?
That's fair. It's
I
probably
had
warm
two
there.
sweatshirts on. One, again, the whole point was there's the modern allegiance, or
You got to wear
hometown,
layers in Cambridge. It's the
Boston,
thing.
and then there's Math Powerland. And if you don't know who Math Powerland is, his first flat Earth comedy thing was in French, and it traveled down through Africa, and it just splattered people's brains the whole way. Oh, wait a minute. No. I can't have this shirt on, but there's way too much Illuminati symbolism, a triangle and an eye
Illuminati.
and crows all. It's very naughty of the Illuminati. So I'm going to put the Red Sox one back on. As
Matt
you guys
Powerland is the alleged
still
former
haven't
NASA
deciphered
photographer.
the one riddle that we're on right now, again, about petrified
Where
rock
the
on
petrified
moon.
rock, where the petrified
What's
rock
the
on the moon.
other real alternative, guys?
Are you saying
Maybe-
you think that maybe we had
Oh, thank you.
a bunch
Pacing,
of petrified
pacing.
rock made it to the moon from Earth?
now
Is that what we're
there,
trying-
Andreas, that is a fantastic, I've never heard anyone make that connection, because
So,
now
like,
that you
the-
mention it, instead of calling a national hero a fraudster, or assuming that someone
Oh,
lost
interesting
something,
point.
oh, maybe if
Maybe something
something
true.
could get blasted off of Mars and land on Earth, maybe something could get blasted off of Earth and land on like the moon.
I
little bit
mean,
closer.
you've heard all the Jules Verne stories about shooting the moon with some sort of a cannon. So you've got
Definitely
this.
crater marks that you can see with your 50
That would be
zoom.
interesting. What if the Earth had been shooting at the moon? All of these guys in these like Jules
You
Vernean
can still hit
space
pause
guns.
because there's still the upper level answer if you want to actually land the job instead of just get another question in the interview. But we'll hit pause here because again, there's just one more answer. That's the real based answer, so to speak. And based not meaning the trees did nothing wrong.
Alchemically speaking. Right. Okay. So what's the other answer?
Maybe there were trees on the fucking moon and they turned into petrified wood a long time ago and shattered and they're there. Okay, guys, sorry. Oops. And
That'd
again,
be pretty.
how
You
we're
know
all
what?
brain dead. And
All right,
I
so
was brain
that's-
dead up until last
that's-
week when I came up with this very clever thing. So now again, it's
seems
yours.
pretty-
And you can
it's-
claim to be smart and have
it
come
seems
up with
pretty
it.
The moon is
ridiculous.
not a projection.
Yeah, or the moon's a projection from a flashlight in a volcano. But I like the idea of it being Endor's moon. If Earth's Chewbacca and Ewok village are all crisscrossed, and we're because Kashyyyk is the redwood trees, right? That's the idea that the Ewoks, no, the Wookiees, the Ewoks and Wookiees are backwards. The Wookiees, they have the giant bodies and the giant trees, but the Ewoks, they come from Endor's moon, which is covered in trees. So I don't see a problem with that. And that's a great idea. What if they covered the moon with trees either way? Like, right? Cover the moon with redwood
Shade
trees.
it out.
That'd be sweet.
I
dude.
mean, be
yeah, it
shady.
would be super dark, but it would be awesome. It'd be a redwood.
See, what
moon,
happens when
man.
you pass green
Shady.
light through a blue filter is you kind of get white, like this grayish white. So the Earth, the moon could be green. And because we have a lot of blue diffraction, like Da Vinci had this rule about adding a little bit of white and blue to the paint to make it look. Anyways.
So
Little
the thing
details.
The thing about like fake space that blows my mind is like when they make arguments about whether Pluto's on a planet or it is. I mean, it's just like, well, then why do you care? Like, what are you really getting into about Pluto?
It's a planet, ETTE. The French always have a way to handle these things. It's not a dispute. They'll
That's a
just
good way to go. There was a thing though. Brittany pulled this up. I think it was the new island, the island born.
give up.
Oh, that happens
Surrender,
every day.
yeah.
There's thousands of islands or land chunks that are coming from volcanoes that are, or when I say volcano, I just mean, really, honestly, there's no definition that I could think of other than, I don't know. I'm saying volcano, but I don't necessarily mean volcano. I mean a hole that something is coming from, whether it's
I mean, hey, it says volcano
solid,
here.
gas. That's their definition. So
Oh, okay.
I'm going to
Yeah,
say
but-
it's a volcano, but
It might be
but
something more
submarine
complicated.
volcanoes are your ocean bulks. There's over 1 million, and there's land forming from them every day.
Right.
And if you find one first, you can name it, and it can become yours.
How
So-
long would it take to count to 1 million 1 second at a time?
What if 1 million people count all at the same time? Does that count?
Oh my gosh.
Then it would take 1 second.
This is just something I'm pointing out, not as like there are times, and it's a new type of synesthetic storytelling that Andreas subconsciously engages in sometimes with his guests. So he had a shaman on who English was maybe a second language and
Oh, right. Yeah, Andre.
very
Andres.
good. But somehow every time he said a word or a god, you would get just those few key phrases into the search engines and you'd kind of pull up. And it, in addition to his words and his pacing, it was as though there was a mini slideshow that's produced ad hoc on the fly. And so there's the whole tension between Joe Rogan and Jamie, right? It's like, Jamie, but he never demands that he do it. And I'm going, Joe, fucking put your cock on the table and tell him to fucking look at it. But owning a small business, what I realized is that if you tell someone how to do their job, you have to pay them as an employee. Whereas if you hire them to do a job and they get to decide how they do it, when or not, then they can be a contractor. So Joe doesn't tell Jamie what to do. And there's a missing fact check dynamic, exciting thing with the audience because he doesn't want to pay someone to be an employee. Or maybe Jamie doesn't want to be an employee.
Yeah, I think it's better for Jamie to be his friend.
Non-compete
I
with the
totally get it.
government. Sorry.
But no, so Tonga Geological Services report the new island continued to grow from September 20th, covering approximately 6 acres or 24,000 square meters.
From how? So hold on, look at the start date, and then
September 10th to September 20th.
and we already have land, and so people are told that it takes a long time for anything to evolve or come from a volcano. And
By who?
the submarine
Teachers like you? No,
volcanoes, yeah, teachers, and I guess the narrative. But if you look into like submarine volcanoes, you can have a habitat, and after I think it was 6 weeks, there's grass, trees, and then eventually it doesn't, it's 3 months, I think. And there was already
What kind of teachers?
bugs.
And speaking
And
of
then there was
islands
birds
that
after
are
a few
empty,
months. I don't know.
and then
It's very
vegetation
quick.
grows up. So this is another one of those riddles with a little bit of pacing. Bear with us if you heard this in the last episode, but Easter Island. This is like if there's the top 50 fourth grade conspiracy facts, it's that there are heads on this small Easter Island in the middle of the ocean, and that some people think that they cut down all the trees to move them and roll them, and some people think they didn't need to do that. But the real thing is that there's been a legend being told about this island that there are not many, if any, trees there. And so then why does our brain stop there? Do we get uncomfortable? This isn't the dolphins and the researchers. This is
Real Hydro FX says it's $5. No question. So I
Guessing
assume
there
that-
were trees.
always worth interrupting. Yes.
I feel like they're stoked. Well, I mean, it's nice.
I'm guessing there were trees at one
What's
point.
the real answer to this one? And we'll give it right
here's
after.
here's
And
why
it probably
here's
wasn't
why-
an island
won't.
until it was
This one you gotta
flooded,
write us and
and
pay
then
us
it
money for
became
the
an
answer.
island surrounded by water, depending
ex-
on if it came from the seafloor or if it was a landmass that's now labeled as an island because of flood, which happens.
Let me expand this. It says according to NASA, because islands created by submarine volcanoes are often short-lived. They occasionally persist for years. For example, an island created by a 12-day eruption from nearby Laitiki volcano in 2020 washed away after 2 months, while an island created in 1995, the same volcano remained for over 2 decades. So some of these guys washed away.
It
So we're not
depends on
moving.
what's being erupted, and it depends on your atoll islands. You can drop a bomb in the seafloor, and then now all of a sudden you create an island because you know where you're dropping it, and they're scanning the
Shit.
seafloor, and they
I gotta
know
get
where to
where are
drop
the
stuff.
glasses? I got.
And
Is Putin dropping the bomb? Is that what?
whether
Oh,
it's
sorry, you
can I say that?
I'm just
I try.
no, I'm just a little jumpy nowadays. It's a little-
But it could be oil. There's a lot of different things that come from these submarine volcanoes, and a lot of times they're created because it was
a bunch of hot gas. No, sorry.
targeted.
It's
The
all
moon's
they
been
dropped
water.
ancient, here it is. The moon's
Denied it.
ancient atmosphere. For 70 million years, the moon had an atmosphere formed by volcanic gas. So it was kind of like a planet. Who knows? This is their story.
Right,
moon-
right.
But the thing is, the idea of it having forests on it holds water to their narrative, right? So they could
But even
say,
if you're
hey,
in the research vessel, you don't know if they just replaced the feed from the RV machine that you think you're driving around the smoke vent at the bottom. It's just a fucking high-res video game, and
true.
to keep the zoo animals feeling like they're contributing to the world in some way.
What was the other one we saw? There was I think the Thailand island was the same one, but
Part of our survival as a species, we needed to feel needed, but now what?
all right, Brittany, but you don't think so. So what do you think it is?
Hmm?
What do you think?
About
The moon and this
we're
volcanic
gonna
piece
jump
of
into talking about the
silicon
moon.
forest. Well,
I've
the whole
gone
thing
through
is
a
we have the
lot of
silicon-
stages of acceptance and denial and what is the moon? I remember the big theory of the moon is the Earth's reflection from whatever.
What about
How
the
many
craters?
light
The
years?
craters on the moon. What are they? Because they're round. Impact craters would all be angled.
If it's
In
a
my father's
projection, it
generation,
doesn't
was told
matter.
they
They're
were craters.
projecting an image.
Now
But
we're
if they're-
told they're electrical strikes. But what will they tell us in 50 years? Those were just where the big eggs used to sit and hatch, and then they'd come to.
I think even if
And
it's a
there's usually a
projection, it has to
smaller
be hitting
circle
something.
on the rim of the bigger circle, which is
True.
again a very indicative of, and it's reproducible in a lab to get electrical discharge to produce the types of craters we see. Because think, why would there be only or mainly round craters? The thing, it's like it goes around, gets pulled into the gravitational field, but when it hits the ground, it like drops straight down at the last second. Question mark? No.
yeah,
Was
it
that-
seems like it would be like
But just
targeted
because they're
bombs
teaching
at
us
the
something
moon.
different than they taught the last generation when they were wrong doesn't mean that we're right. And that's important. For
I'm
us
sure
as
they
Americans.
have documentation of launching rockets that would then launch, artillery at the moon. That's probably what they were doing to try and either break off a chunk if it is a solid object and they didn't really know what it was at that point. Yeah, that's crazy that they all decided. And I would think the geophysical year 57, 58 is probably when they all decided, all right, you guys, it's okay. We're gonna bomb this object since we don't know what it is yet. Or they did know what it was and they created this whole, show around it. But yeah, they definitely were launching stuff as high as they could and as deep as they could for that.
Yeah, but the idea of the moon having an atmosphere, you don't think that the moon is like a spheroid? You think it's just a disc, or
I don't. if it's an object way up, it would need to be directed, so it's electromagnetic and it's being pulled along something, or it could be on a actual, I don't know, mounted. I don't know, unless it's in the hydrogen and helium, which is in our upper atmosphere, because the moon has now moved to being inside of the Van Allen radiation belts, but before it was outside of the Van Allen radiation belts, which is also interesting to change the location. Did the moon change in location, or did we just change where we said it was located? I mean, that's interesting.
Well, it's interesting because we also do this idea of geostationary orbit, which geostationary orbit is geosynchronous orbit. It's the same kind of idea. So if you were to use, I don't know if you just type polar projection.
But you need to also look at the fixed stars that we have, and the fixed stars in relation to the moon and the sun, and how they work on this similar system, tech systems.
What did you got, Stefan? You got a rebuttal?
Oh, I was saying, instead of making peanut gallery jokes, not trying to actually dig at the integrity of the conversation, but just again be the
I'm about to
offset.
do,
but what I should do is comment into the actual chats and participate in the live chat. Although Sunday night, how many people do we have in here? Oh.
Well, so
hopefully just
on
a few.
On an odd note, so
nope, again, the other guest, any question he had, you had
100 people.
No, again, I'm not making you.
Yeah,
You're not Jamie. You're not Jamie.
I'm just gonna say real quick because it's important. On an odd note, I did get a bunch. I found a group. So when I was a kid, I was sent to this like desert survival program called SEUS, which is for like survival wilderness, and they're trying to like fix kids that have troubles when really like the world's the trouble. And I'm pretty sure like I was luckily not deconditioned. But the dark side to these programs is that they put you in the woods. These are probably the prettier versions because the one I was at apparently was shut down after a bunch of kids died in the program. And they like took your clothes and made you live in these weird, like, you had to tie a bag together. It was crazy. I don't know if I can find a picture of SEUS, Idaho. Let me see.
Someone's got to teach you how to bag an ounce, or else you never know.
Right. Well, that's the thing. A lot of these kids were pretty chill, but
a priest's
now
son, that's who taught me.
After these kids, after some kids died, they shut it down. So I've been finding a bunch of the dudes who were part of the program. And a bunch of kids got sent to these crazy psychotherapeutic boarding schools where they make you watch a flower video of a time lapse of a flower growing and wilting and dying for 6 hours over and over again. And they make you like run in circles, and they just do crazy Clockwork Orange hypnotism to people. And there's all of these kids I found that were part of the program that was shut down. So I'm trying to get them together to do a conversation. And what's interesting is we all did this thing in the program, which is what is it? The medicine stick,
Andreas, you said you never tell anyone about. Sorry, I'm just kidding.
Right. But you walk around,
funny, but it is funny.
Around the fire, you've got a bunch of people, and each person waits to speak until because the idea is they're all chiefs, and they're each chief,
talking sticks.
A talking stick. That's what you call it, right? The talking stick. So it's
you have to put it up your ass, and then you can talk. That's how it worked. The talking stick. When you teach that to the kids, and
I mean, there was a turtle on there.
When I was on that scuba diving boat, the head instructor came out and he said, when you're on the John, we have to not put a lot of toilet paper. And he took one leaf and he folded it in half and he tore out the center and he said, you put your finger through it. And he had 10 teenagers being like, we have to do what? And then he was like, this is called British humor. Welcome to the real world.
But yeah, with the talking stick,
can we get the plug out of the back of these kids' brains or not? No, not yet. No.
I just think it's going to be good though, because we've all been through that program where we use the talking stick, so it'll be easy because everyone's going to go around like with a freaking talking stick. So I wonder how it'll work also with interjections, because of the fact that we've all been programmed to, not. I don't know. It's kind of
you
weird.
So wait, you're going to virtually meet and use a talking stick?
Yeah,
and when you turn
I don't think that will work.
Trickle down and hit the nails, and you hear them clinking on the way. Sorry.
Why doesn't that work?
Well, there's supposed to be one talking stick and a group of people in the same location, and then that one stick gets handed to the people, right? And so if you guys are virtual, you'll all have a talking stick.
I mean, yeah, well,
Sounds
no,
like a one world government type system if you want to design
And then who knows? Like everybody just holds up their stick.
no, because there's a number of windows in a panel. So then it would just be the same thing as the talking stick usually goes in a circle unless someone clicks to ask to be unmuted.
I thought you threw it around randomly.
You can do that afterwards. A lot of time you go in a circle and then you can throw it.
But
if
you'll be
someone
in
has
charge. So you'll
played
be
the
like
game. It's very
head
similar to
talking
this, where you try to count from 1 to 20, but you're in a circle of 20 people, and you could sit there and go 1, 2, 3, and then someone else goes 4, and then sometimes there's a 20-minute gap, and then someone goes 5. But if you ever say it at the same time as someone else, you start over.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
so
you
this
can.
game can take hours, but
That's
it's very
also a good
meditative
way
thing.
to,
You're only saying a number. Yeah.
keep track of a large group of people, assign numbers, and then you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Just a little tip for anybody that
And keep
ever
the
stuck with the group
unmedicated children at the end of the day focused.
to make sure everybody's back on track.
Well, okay. Another thought though. Do you want to give me another subject, Stefan, or do you want me to pull up the big freeze thing?
So we did the Easter Island and the petrified wood as like, those are the types of riddles that I hope to be continuing to share with the channel. And just Brittany was asking before the show, what is this comedy? What, I don't know. Is it funny? It's to me, it's funny that no one else has ever come up with this before. And I hope that it's interesting to other people as much as it's interesting to me.
I think petrified wood's hilarious.
It tickles my fancy, as they say.
Right.
Anything petrification, that we should have been studying that in school, and I didn't even hear about petrification until I was in my 30s. So
what is
that's
funny
pretty
is when any
ridiculous.
one of
At first, I was afraid.
like petrified wood, yes, but petrified remains.
what is funny is
and
when any one of us
parts.
goes into a petrified wood forest and talks to one of the museum curators about our theories about petrified wood. That's hysterical. They're always just like, "Oh, you're one of those internet weirdos. I haven't even heard this one yet," you know. But then you give them like a couple weeks and they start to be
The humans,
pretty
it gives them
interested.
another 1,000 years. Maybe they'll start to think about it. Not figure it out yet, but they might start to think about it.
Well, where do you guys go with silicon trees, yo? Because that's always fun.
Just
Silicon-based life forms, why not?
Dude.
And so they were trees, and they probably might have even worked the same way. They were just made out of different stuff.
and
I'm a
they
big-
were probably instant petrification.
And they
I'm a
bridged,
big
there were
fan of
vines
it.
between the moon and the earth, and so they had to be made out of something.
Oh, this is the. If anyone's
The moon
seen
is
there,
actually the
no
mold
forest
spore
on
that got
flat
released.
Earth. That's that whole theory there with the.
There's I don't know if I can find the paper, but there are definitely papers on feeding minerals and to mushrooms, which then excrete glassy silicon. So the idea of creating a giant physical structure, which is just the leftover after this mushroom's grown the thing, right? You've seen those pictures of those ancient giant mushroom.
Well, to produce a giant sapphire crystal dome that can have the integrity to go into outer space, you need to cook it inside of a whole structure that big, and you eventually chip everything away, and then we'll get down to the sapphire crystal. But speaking of sapphire crystal and watches, the title of the video, but we'll get there from here. So
Right. But that I think is, you know, that could easily be that the silicon trees are the remnants of giant mushrooms. I mean, you know, and it just grows and it's lifting itself higher and higher into the sky to keep itself safer.
Do you have any images of giant mushroom bases that we can look at
Well,
to compare? Like
you
the
guys heard the
largest
theory
mushroom,
that
what are the bases? Because I do see like a
mushroom
base
grew
of a
around the
tree,
Earth.
but I don't know what giant mushroom bases look like, or
so for
even
for
a
one,
small mushroom.
for one thing, they look
It'd
very
be one
similar.
cell thick. You wouldn't see it at all.
They grow
Wouldn't
straight
look
tall,
like a thing.
but they do grow tall like that. And if they were excreting, then it could be that they're excreting out minerals and stone underneath them as they grow taller upon its own feeding material on its own excrement. But it's a giant
So what
staff.
happened to the mushroom tops in your theory? Were they blasted off? Were they used for their elements? And now all that's left is, were they harvesting the
Dinosaurs had to eat
mushroom
them
head?
to make the shells for their eggs, and they knew which mushrooms they had to eat to get the minerals.
So
for their
the
eggs.
the other thing is not all mushrooms have these giant heads.
Duh, we learned that in 3rd grade. Sorry.
Here's what I imagine a lot of the mushrooms might have looked like.
Okay.
But even then, the question still remains. Like,
But why were they cut off? What was
That
so
was the dominant
valuable about the
species.
top?
That's yeah. I'll turn that back to you guys. Do you think that
'Cause
do you believe in
They
that
were
Grand
eating- they
Canyon
created
quarry
the
theory?
moon, and it left.
The
Yeah,
Grand
it's-
Canyon
It was
quarry.
a mine that, yeah. I would
How else do
think.
you explain the moon not rotating? It's like everywhere you look, it's facing us. And I understand you can work it out with the math, but it makes more sense that it was something that was on the surface of the Earth stationary, and then distance grew from it. So it
I
was
must
a giant mold spore or ball, and The reason we
Stellium's
don't
going to
see
be
them more
on.
is because it left. It did its job.
Friday.
Stellium 7 is gonna be on the 28th. He'll be on it. We can ask him a bit of his theories also on this idea. But I
Yeah,
think
There
it's
you go,
good.
so.
I think it's interesting, this idea of quarrying. I mean, because we think of quarrying with these machines, but maybe there are natural processes that did the same thing, even for quarrying. I don't know.
Just like the bottom of the blue hole.
Mm.
What if that is a layer of calcified salts and stuff, and you break through the crust, and there's something that we've never seen before and never ever want to see, and it's not the size of a bacteria. It's much bigger and it has a big family, and it stays dormant for thousands of years at a time, and then you woke it up.
That's a
And that might be a geological process, let alone
I need to
the Olm's
Go to
grandfather.
the Grand Canyon because some of that looks like petrified, like buildings or just, I don't know, mud flooded. I get it. I know that's Parabolia, but
right, but it does look like
There's-
that.
Well, when you say it is pareidolia is a way to explain our tendency to err on the side sometimes of attributing something very specific. Speaking of mold spores, so there's something called ghost pipe. It's also called bear corn.
Whoa,
It's also
is that
called
what the kids are
squaw
doing now
root.
on
Squaw
Grindr?
is like the N word for
Bear
Native
corn?
American women, though. So I don't know.
what the hell?
What were these?
There's definitely a good joke there with the squaw root. And again, it's a plant
The
that
squaw
has no
root.
Oh
photosynthesis.
my god.
What's the plant called?
Bear corn?
Monotropa uniflora off the dome. So it's also called ghost pipe, also called bear corn, also called squaw root.
Oh, whoa.
Mm.
What is this
Bruises
guy?
blue, and if you're having a psychotic episode at a festival, instead of giving you morphine and you passing out in a coma or not, this makes you decide, oh, I'm just gonna lay down and take a nap.
Interesting.
But I don't know if it's the roots
Hmm.
or the stem or the flower, and if you crush it or grind it or dry it or what the
So,
They sell
are
them
there
on
any
Etsy.
other
found
side
a huge
effects
patch
other
of
than getting sleepy? Because
people will kill you because you found their patch of this, their ancestors' shit, and you did. I sat and talked to the plant and said, "Should I touch you?" I said, "No."
And another super chat
And it's a
from
plant
the Real
that's
Hydro.
white. It looks like a fungus. It grows off of a fungus, off of a specific tree type's roots only. So the fact that it proliferates, it has to find a fungus that's growing on a specific tree's roots, and then somehow.
I
year
saw
after
the
year
medicine
come
sounds
back.
man.
magical.
I'm gonna pull up a movie after this. So wait, my core.
But here's the messed up part.
Wait, hold on real quick. My Mycorrhiza. What is Mycorrhiza? We got a super chat from Real Hydro PX. Thank you. He says, you know about Mycorrhiza is in a mycorrhizal association, fungal colonizes the host
Fungus
plant's
roots.
root tissues. There it is. Right. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. So this is
Mycorrhiza, yeah.
Mycorrhiza. Yeah, and you can see the patterns it makes in the process, which is kind of like gyroidal 3D printing design instead of the honeycomb, which is like this networking.
And again, it's not a mushroom. It looks like one. It's almost blending in with one. It could sprout up amongst them, but it's actually a non-photosynthetic plant, and it doesn't need to photosynthesize because it steals its nutrients from a fungus that steals its nutrients from the tree.
Whoa. It's a mycelial fuel cell, a
It's
microfuel
nature's
cell.
anxiolytic, a little bit like Xanax, except minus big pharma. So again, what is in ghost pipe? What is the active ingredient? Is it in the flowers? Is it in the roots? How do you prepare it? How do you preserve it?
Dude,
There
have
are
you seen
people who do know
Someone
this
in the
stuff.
chat might know.
have you seen the medicine man?
No, I'm gonna ask the internet. No, tell me the right answer. What's the? No, what was the medicine?
Dude, this movie's so brutal. I love this
Is that
movie.
with Sean Connery?
Yeah. So I was like 3 years old or something. I'm getting all the slides ready to tell my story. So
Oh
basically,
dear.
I remember like being in the cassette room and just picking a cassette off, and it was like every year the rainforest loses 5%. Like, well, there's not a lot of percents left to that or whatever. That's gonna be horrible. And then the movie starts, and it's Sean Connery living in the rainforest trying to avoid everybody because he's trying to save society because he found this plant that cures AIDS and cancer and everything else. It's like the be all end all Amazon cure. Unfortunately, he can't figure out which one of the vials it came from because he was doing like so many tests that day. So he has to go back and look through all of these different kinds of thousands
He has
of flowers.
to taste them all, like Wilhelm
Well,
Scheele. Right? You taste
it's
the whole
a little-
periodic table.
It's
all
a
of it.
little bit more hyphy, like because he's got like all this lab equipment in a bungalow made out of like rainforest, you know, and he's got the science equipment. He's got an Apple laptop there, you know, he's doing a lot of cool stuff. And so he's doing DNA tests while this guy's peeing in the rain. And this lady comes to figure out what's been going on with the project, and they figure out that they have to figure it out soon because if they don't, the whole rainforest that they're in, they're going to build a highway right through there so that they can bring rainforest trees that they can sell in the Amazon. So then that's going to kill everybody because he's had to spend a year detoxing so that he doesn't give immunity deficiency to the natives and kill them.
Accident?
Well, they have allergies to white people, so they can't even be around them.
Is the evil white man, and definitely man, not woman, just the man?
Well, she's the problem. But yeah,
are they killing the fungus or the plant on purpose because they want humanity to suffer? Or
no, so the loggers in the Brazil, this is now you go to the Amazon. Let me show you. It's called the Amazonia. Well, I can just tell you, it's called the Amazonia. It's a state. It's a state with roads and highways and parks, and it's like Georgia or Carolina. It's Amazonia. It's not like the rainforest. I don't think people understand that. There's part of the rainforest, but not a lot of rainforest left. It's not what it's 2022, guys. You cut it down. It's time to move on. But what you do have is there were places back in the 1990s that were the last place that had people that still spoke Guarani, never spoke to a white person before, or a Spaniard or anybody. And yeah, they built these roads through there. And people got sick.
They never saw a white person they didn't eat. Sorry.
That's like
love or
no. People got sick by interacting with them, and so they just didn't interact, and they were keeping sequestered. There's more and more isolation. There's still some places that are kind of isolated in Iguazu, but not so
shall
much.
Set you free, as in from your own sanity.
I feel like there's a really good early '90s car commercial where they bring like a Nissan into that Amazonia.
Fun fact, there's a lot of Nissans in the rainforest because they did.
They bring them. The commercials are hilarious. Next time I'll bring it.
When I was in Salta in the mountains, almost everyone has a Nissan, and they've got them all swooped up, and they look swooped up kind of like a gamer laptop, like they have like lights in them and stuff, but it's still a Nissan from 1991. You know what I mean? But it's powerful, and it's at 13,000 feet in the middle of like the Latin equivalent of Nepal. But okay, so these ladies in the rainforest, she's trying to figure out what the flower is. Eventually, they realize that, dude, the flower, it's on top of this tree that's growing in this mud that's been carried by this bird, and it only grows in trees above the 300-foot level. So there's only this certain kind of tree that does that, and it has to have all this other stuff around it growing, and it's right in the middle of the road.
Picky.
Right. But if they could just get it figured out and synthesized before they cut it down, at least they'd have a digital version of it. They could get some kind of a pill made of the thing, but they just can't do it in time.
Brittany, you've heard of the orchids that grow in the rainforest that are so specific in their shape that there's one specific bug that it's meant to attract. And it even not only mimics the right shape, but the right pheromones to make it think that it's interacting with a mate potentially.
Dude, that book, Orchid Thief, it's wild.
The Tartar,
it's like that other movie,
Tartar Lamb. I'm almost there.
About
I've
the
almost
Orchid
made
Thief?
a complete thought. I swear, almost there, guys. I can't get in charge of the couple dynamic. It's cuter than me rambling to myself. No. So at the building that looks like a snake inside that the Pope talks in the Vatican, where there's a giant bronze structure of like fungus roots and then Jesus coming up out of the middle. If we accept that there are birds that drop eggs in nests to like parasitize, and they have the same pattern when they open up the inside of their mouth, it's the same pattern as the species that they dropped it into. So like guess and check over the orchid that's so specifically mapped to the one insect. Who's to say there isn't a fungus that produces something that looks like a dead Jesus figure that rises out of the ground because it attracts humans to it, and then the humans sit there worshiping it and they shit and die in that area and the fungus eats them. But
well, I mean,
it's
clearly,
not implausible to say that there could be a human mimic fungus, right?
There's
insect mimic flower.
Oh dear!
For the pacing of what he's saying here, just to corroborate that Steph is on something.
Go check out the sculpture in the Vatican.
I definitely
on stage.
Because this is gonna be a while.
No. This is a quick just compare these ideas. That the reason that these flowers look like this is because they're emulating the beautiful or the predatory forms of other creatures that were
but even more messed up, the pheromones too. It's one thing to get them the physical. How much time would it take?
What's going on electromagnetically with mushrooms?
The smell right too.
They have
done any e-meter work on mushrooms?
God. Thank you for saying that. Let me show you
Yeah.
something really funny, actually, since you bring that up. Let's see if we can find this.
Because LRH should have done that,
Mushroom-
not just plants. I would think he would have done major research into that beyond plants, especially with his background.
So this dude here, I'm not going to blow his channel up because I don't have permission, but you can see like Myco, and he's got this is a pink oyster mushroom, and he's got 100 different kinds of mushrooms plugged into his synthesizer, and it's using the mushroom electromagnetic field in different various ways to augment the sound. So
but
yeah,
is that a
My
buffer
grinder
though, or
does
he's
that.
not measuring any like activity coming from
Well,
the
he
mushroom?
is,
He's
but he's
using
not-
it as a buffer to project the
He's-
noise. Or
I wouldn't say he's using it as a buffer. He's using it as an instrument. He's using the actual data.
Oh, he's-
And instead
okay,
of
gotcha.
reading numbers on the screen, he's hearing the numbers as augmentation. Like it's like,
Okay.
oh wow, that turned it like 50 clicks. Whatever you call that, a decibel or.
interesting.
So you can-
look
and
at
you can
that
have
channel
hertz.
for sure.
It reminds
Yeah.
me of watching butterflies hatch out of their chrysalis. Hey, kid, stare at that. Tell me what it means. And sometimes the kid actually figures it out, but oftentimes.
But
it's
is that
just
why
this.
orchids are terrifying because they're trying to cross the uncanny valley?
That's what it's like for me and Elon Musk to try to talk to the average public. No, it's like talking to a tree. It's a bandwidth rate. It just isn't high enough. I don't know what to do. I need Andreas to help me as a storyteller. But he
I
needs
mean-
to pull up the images as I go.
but what is
I
but
need a
what,
Jamie. Where's my Jamie? No,
but what is the so you're saying like you think the orchid is
Jamie isn't even Jamie.
putting on these pheromones. What are or is it not pheromones or what is the thing?
Say what now?
I mean, are you trying to talk about the pheromones that the orchid puts off?
Oh, yeah, I'm saying that is the cherry on top of the cake that makes it more likely that everything's intelligent design.
right. Yeah,
Like
it's
someone
really
made this
interesting.
painting for me in Acorn Yoga, but it's got one of these little images is a spiral, right? And I heard that that's like a sign from Pizzagate, and so I can't hang this on the wall of my business because even though someone made this for me before they left for Alaska, there's a little
Yeah, but
spiral
was
on
it
somewhere
always a
that
sign for
places in the
Pizzagate, or
middle
did
of
it become a sign for Pizzagate after it meant something
I
else?
don't want to risk it. I'll tell you that much.
Because
The-
seriously, that's kind of like
Isn't
the
this so
Shwasti.
beautiful though? Phases of the moon.
I would hang it up. What are you saying is the wrong sign?
2 weeks for $22, or maybe it was even 30 days for $30, and that was. But she came every day and got
Hmm.
what she needed.
But then Brittany, you've
There was
got
no
that
double
article.
entendre there.
You got that article on.
I
What
think
was
you
it?
covered.
No. It was the freezing. It was a deep freeze. The rapid freeze. The rapid freeze.
I didn't send any articles on that. I was
The
listening.
big
to
freeze, the rapid cooling during
Oh,
the
yeah,
Younger Dry
okay,
about
fine.
12,000 years ago, about several thousand years of ice. So this is important because we're told that there was millions of years, and then the more modern schools say there's 12,000, 8,000, 1,300 years is what the kids I were.
You know what the
my
opposite
school
of the
was
Younger
about.
Dryas is? Is the older swamp ass. Get it?
That's fair.
Again, that's a
actually.
solid joke that Joe Rogan should definitely use in his act.
That's a demographic.
The
thing.
opposite, or what came before or after the Younger Dryas, is the older swamp ass. Right?
But the thing is that this idea that there was 12,000 years is easier than millions of years or
Count one for
1,300. And so
Well,
it's a middle
easier.
ground. Well, because it's not true. 12,000 is not true either. 1,300 years is what it is. We're just not ready to deal with the fact that even that.
Whoa, he's saying it.
I mean, yeah. So rapid cooling during the Younger Dryas.
It takes so long for that stuff to happen.
What do you think though? It's just
I'm teasing.
It says about the cold return to the northern hemisphere. This wasn't just a short-lived weather event. As the seasonal change, it was cold for about 1,300 years. In some places, the glacial regrew, and it was as cold as the peaks of the ice age. This time in Earth history,
Daddy,
called
what's
the
an
Younger Dryas.
intaglio? What's a tourbillon?
Oh, there we go. That's a good one.
This is linked to, they also just kind of uncovered the bog freezes that
Pappy
happen.
Xirtus.
Instant
Pappy
freezes
Jones.
followed by petrification after like volcanism. That's an interesting topic we should go into eventually.
Right.
Not tonight.
we can look at the thermal highland, but I've got the Intaglio printmaking thing open.
You know,
Do you think
my therapist says
Oh,
she
yeah, here we
watches
go.
our sessions and mutes me in our sessions to make herself feel better afterwards. It just like gets it out of her system. No, so.
would you?
I can
do
always
you
interrupt
wanna-
as the patient. No, I'm just
Did
kidding.
you want to do the rapid freeze a bit more, or are you saying is it connected to that, or is Intaglio the next subject?
Who are you asking?
You, Stefan. I dropped this.
I heard what you
Intaglio?
said. You were saying, how is this related to what freezing?
Oh, because we were doing the rapid freeze thing, so I wasn't sure if you're saying we'd, it was tied to that somehow.
Well, eventually we're going to get 3 hours into the podcast and you still haven't addressed the title. So I was just
No, that's what he's trying to do. That was a segue. You missed it. You missed it.
It's a coy artistic thing to do. And then make them look it up, you know.
But like tell us about the Intaglio.
The Intaglio was just a word that sounded like tourbillon and fancy, but an Intaglio, my friends, is a way to describe the process of reducing, and I brought this up in a previous video chat, which you'll never be able to find here on this channel, a dinner-sized plate or even bigger, and then it gets reduced to the size of a coin with a series of armatures, and you basically keep tracing it over the larger sculpture, and then the series of non-electric gears can reduce that motion with this. You have to keep really sharp tips on the small bit and make sure that everything is really fixed in place. But that oftentimes is the authenticity. On print money, you can see the engraving lines pressed in, and on coins outside of it's what made you believe that the alloy was not 925 silver, was because you actually had a legit Intaglio stamp on it. But more mind splatting is the tourbillon and its evolution over time, and the fact that it now exists in a like 3D gyrometric version. It's just something that shouldn't be able to exist, let alone we shouldn't have been able to figure it out, let alone we shouldn't be able to build it, let alone build it the size that it fits on a wristwatch. There's something called a triple tourbillon. The first was just the single, and there was a whole 1,000-year lineage of people that lived in the basement of monasteries, each one memorizing one piece, and their job was to make one piece, and then someone knew how to put the thing together, and it was the size of a tabletop. And then people figured out how to make it smaller and smaller, and then they made a double tourbillon, and now there's a triple, and this is to like make sure that you don't lose a millionth of a second every billion years on your wristwatch. And we definitely needed this technology.
This is like what's under Starfort.
Yeah, I mean, so why do you think they're putting so much money into making sure this technology still exists and is being made? Is it just for the art of it, or is it really is this in order to perpetuate the industry?
It's like playing show and tell.
Which, by the way, the industry is what, horology? I think
like a giant scale of that. What does this look like on? Is it just solely for the purpose of clocks?
It's like,
I think it would be for
I dropped
power.
it. Can I make a triple tourbillon? No, Andreas, can you make a triple tourbillon? And Brittany can. So
if I went to school for it, I would definitely
version of
3D print one.
Does make those things.
Just
look, it exists. They designed it from scratch. What?
What other mechanism? Like, what else is it used for? Is it only used in these watches?
Still hasn't pulled up a picture of a triple or a double tourbillon.
These are the wrong ones. Sorry, I typed in.
Than what you're seeing.
Oh, I thought it was
these are cool gears.
These are like in watches.
I had it here. Is this wrong?
Grand scale.
Is this not a triple tourbillon?
This is what we should practice instead of calling and chatting. And
is this not a triple tourbillon?
That may be. That one seems to have been pressed into a single plane. I've seen ones where it's almost like there's the ball. It's like a ball sticking up off the surface of the.
I think that's what they have in those old the 1800s images. It's like a cogs and the wheels. Like, how does?
And if you type in tourbillon history, it'll tell you exactly which dates the single, double.
Go to archives.
We're modernly, but again, our fans can do that at home too. It's just a little teaser. Some sexy eye candy, so that they decide to go look it up themselves.
I will jump there. I just want to really quickly see. Here we go. There we go.
When we see Earth tech stuff. When we see videos about tourbillons on 3 other channels, we know we did our job. What?
And there's a little sun going around it.
There you go. Now it makes sense to me. When you take it on a larger scale.
That's crazy.
The planetary gears aren't the tourbillon. The tourbillon runs those at a precise increment, but close enough for government work, as they say.
And then would the moon and the sun be dangling off the hands and literally attached to something moving? That's interesting.
I can't see if there's like a really small MEM or something, a microelectronic device, mechanical device.
It's the crystal. Isn't that the messed up thing? Is the thing that paces that device?
The crystal. Okay.
Is the frick? What do you mean? And so it's a lossless thing. It's something that keeps time and doesn't degrade. You're not consuming the crystal. You're somehow using the crystal, not for a radio frequency across the world, which again is another mind splat. There's some great old
continuous motor. It's just constantly running, so it could work for anything, not just keeping time, right?
In horology, a tourbillon is a whirlwind, in addition to the mechanics of a watch escapement to increase accuracy, it was developed around 1795 and patented by the Swiss-French watchmaker Abraham Louis Breguet on June 26, 1801. In a tourbillon, the
And
escapement...
when you sound bored reading it.
No, I mean, trying... Okay. Oh, you're good point. I wish I had Doug. Doug could do it.
I'm happy to...
In a tourbillon, an escapement and balance wheel are mounted in a rotating cage, with the goal of eliminating errors or pros in the balance given a uniform weight.
Broadcasting live across the world. No, I tried to pass it back over to you so that
I
you
see
could, like,
this as
introduce
like
something, but I've just never.
I should rewatch the
Beyond
Joe Rogan Fear Factor. He was so good at that. Tourbillons are still
technology.
included in some modern wristwatches.
So I would assume this is way earlier than that, and that they re-engineered it into watches, but it would probably be to take away from the fact that this could be like Earth tech type stuff where things are running forever off of a giant crystal, etc., etc. But that's crazy, so I will stop there.
Dude, look at tiny that one is. He's spinning around the center there. It's adorable. It's
I want to
tiny
see.
watches.
Look up. Can you Google
riding a
like the
Segway.
big
I'll
one,
never
a giant
one from scratch. It's cool to
first
know.
giant whatever tourbillon. How do you say it?
tourbillon.
Like look at 1800s tourbillon.
Tourbillon.
1700s tourbillons before they have the
type of
tourbillon.
technology where if you had it, it was a secret. So whatever acknowledged date it is when they stopped giving up the ruse of keeping the secret.
The
So
world's
this may have
largest
existed
Nerds
since
watch.
ancient Rome.
And they probably made it really tiny.
1000% scale. What we got? They're gonna 3D print it at 1000% scale. Okay. There you go.
Again,
It's all about 3D printing.
they shouldn't be allowed to do that. This is cool.
They shouldn't be allowed to. It's too cool.
No, I'm saying no. It's great. That's
like
probably
that
how
take
it
on
started. It started out this way.
I
and
think
then
not
they
fair. What you were
probably
saying is not
re-engineered it.
fair. I want one is what I
Right. And the springs. All right. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah, we can
cool
build
that you
that.
can build you can now 3D print the desktop size demo models for the kids. In early New England education, it
And
was
this
like
is just for a watch mechanism for a 24-hour day.
Well, I'm sure you could use it for other
60
reasons,
second
right? Like you
minutes.
but
could,
no, clearly it's not because you could get a digital
as soon as you have a
for
watch, you could have
$5.99.
automated.
So
as
no,
soon as
this
you
is
have
an
a,
interesting
That's what I'm
question, is
saying. This
why
is
do
a
we still
motor.
create
It's a
this, and why do people
perpetual
like it?
motor that stays going.
as soon as you have a
Doesn't
watch,
get
you
from
could
point A to- it's not an old car.
you could have an automated system with this because something
Yeah.
can then open a hose or turn on water. So the
Mhm.
thing is, as soon
It's-
as you have
it's
this,
an
you could do
object
all
that
this other
speaks
stuff.
for itself and embodies the
That's-
depth and breadth of our expertise and mastery as a species, not individuals.
And they
And
put it in a watch.
you don't have to say anything. Yeah, and it's so small that no one else will notice. But all you have to do, whenever you're feeling weird or down about something, you just stare at that and go, "What the is this? Must be a simulation." Oh no, right? It's like the spinning top in Inception is your tourbillon. Is like, that's absurd. That shouldn't
That's what the Earth is
exist. Like we should be able. We should
on a tourbillon.
try to make something like that and figure out it doesn't work. What do you mean it works? And it's more precise than you put more gears into it.
And then you have the stars and the
single,
star
double,
system
triple.
and the moon and the sun, and it's a big tourbillon system that we live in. Put a ribbon on it.
Well, what about the so in terms of these clocks, there's the guy who invented the Arab roboticist. What's his name? That father of robotics.
Have you heard of Aryabhata
Um,
from the Gupta dynasty, who calculated pi in the year 300?
I
and
thought that was a
also-
joke. I thought you were saying like Harry Potter.
There is a guy Aryabhata.
I don't know how to spell his name.
A-
What did you
A-
hear?
oh,
Oh,
yeah,
there we go.
sorry,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, of course, Arya Bhatta. Yeah,
Of the Gupta. If you type in
Bhata.
Gupta dynasty too, you'll get his work.
this
And again, it
buddy
looks
here.
like your guys are over here. That's right.
Legit.
Hoochie
Right,
Earth
authors of a trees
tech.
in math astronomy. I was also gonna
Like,
pull
let's
up
take the Earth tech and put it in.
Al-Kindi, I think is it right? Al-Jazari
Al Bundy.
did robotics, and for the same machines, he would build these like water clocks that would do these automated systems. But then with that, they could water things. They could release little characters that did
Oh,
stuff.
who's that?
Look at
who's
Donkey.
That? Who's this cute little? Oh, look at him!
Is your cat here?
No, this guy right here. Who is
I
it?
can't
Oh,
see.
Che Guevara.
Oh, coochie on the chin.
Oh,
Oh, look at him.
adorable. But yeah, so you could release a donkey with this gear system connected to a water clock, and that's pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
I'm not saying he's a good person, but if you study him like you study Alex Jones, you know how to fuck up society when society's fucking up people. So that's
Is Alex Jones promoting his book at all right now? Because you should get him on the show. For
Yeah,
a
it's
book
true.
promo.
We should at least show the book. I
Anyone?
mean, I've shown this
Well,
before.
no,
but I'll
I mean,
say
if
you
he
can
wants
grab
to
a
come
copy.
talk about it, I haven't
So
read
here,
it.
put it in
know
the
nothing
chat
about
maybe
it.
again. How many people saw Alex Jones show the audience a blank open book? He opened all the pages, the title was printed, and the rest of the book was blank. So what do you make of that, Andreas? And
It's a self-help book that you need to fill out in journal.
Oh, it's
I
empty.
think Steve Bannon wrote it the week that he was
Really?
promoting it on air when he assembled it.
I like the
And
story.
He stated it out loud, not in the main promos that they would cut and cycle and put and post on. But if you watch it straight through, you pick up. Alex Jones teaches you things about 5 seconds of silence.
I did get a blank book one time from my uncle many years ago, and it was like all the things I learned from liberals. And it was at the time when he thought I was very liberal minded, and
This is what the kids do. On
he gave me a book, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, my uncle sees the light on this side," and I opened it up, and it was blank. So.
Inside of the Ages sends us $2 and says, "I printed one talking about the tourbillon," and he says, "Works great,
Tolerance
spring
test.
powered." I shouldn't assume gender, but
It works great for what? What is he using his for? For keeping time throughout the day?
it's a great
Mental
question.
Masturbation.
Down to no.
Feels
Let us
good.
know how you're
What?
using that.
Yeah, let us know.
It might be
So-
sweet. Like it might be.
Because if you print one, what are you going to use it for? Like,
I used to have this thing that water would fill in it and it would empty like a little.
See
bird.
Andreas's
I love
face.
that.
See Andreas's face. He made a comment that he could print the inside to match the contours of a statue's face, and then gently place it over there as like a practical joke.
oh yeah. You got to
Makes
start
me
doing
think
that on the
he
other
and I
side.
will eventually be under Lex's tutelage at MIT, because at MIT they would do an annual prank. And there was one time they disassembled a cop car and put it on top of a dome, and like they measured the bridge in Smoots. The guy named was Smoot, and they made him lay down 1,000 times. But there was something that lasted for 20 years before anyone even noticed. So they took styrofoam and carved Latin letters into it, and at the middle of the night went up to, MIT has these great classical buildings where there's people's names and sayings etched into the perimeter, and they just like replaced a whole line of it with nonsense gobbledygook text, and it took some time before anyone noticed
or cared, right? Yeah. MIT, they're just going about their business.
So the I feel like the face over the statue is like the new age version of that. It's your job to kind of do that on behalf of some class of some school at MIT.
Dude,
eventually, or inspire someone to do it.
I need to rethink my whole like lower bust part, this guy's body shape. This is the dad bod. This is the yogi yogurt. Like
it's the National Lampoon Society, the Hearst Castle. I went inside in Harvard on campus, and you go in and you go up through the fireplace through a secret staircase and end up into this room where there's all this alcohol, but people are studying in there. Weird.
A lot of ghee. But so let me do a quick one. I was thinking this would be worth telling people. Obviously,
I didn't say that out loud. I swore I'd never tell anybody.
Right.
Not really.
Somebody's already read this. I'm glad you have. And I think the thing is, you might have.
It is real that you go through the fireplace. But yeah, sorry. I keep
the ritual.
Mute me for a second, just out of posterity. For posterity.
All right.
Oh,
all right, but I'll read it. The Adam and Eve story, the story by Chan Thomas. This is important. Why? Well, some of you already know, because it was banished in 1966. It was classified by the CIA. They didn't want you to read this creation, cosmogenesis. Is it some hippy dippy nonsense? Well, no, not really. Actually, it's a kind of a geologist who's been doing a lot of studies of the Earth, saying that there's some sort of nuclear underground volcano that's had several resets that have happened before this. And he points to geographic and geologic examples of those resets in different places about 14 times, and at least telling people where, the Atlantis was, et cetera, and Tartaria.
And the filtered version's available. That's what, like 60 pages.
Right. The filtered version is like 60 pages out of the 250.
That you
doesn't
think
have any
is,
mention to the Tartars.
I get access to that. But
2016, they released 170 pages, which also didn't mention.
Who did? The CIA?
I mean, so it was
no, this is the Archives Library, because they didn't get all the books and burn them in 1966. There's no way there was a book that was released and they were able to get every single copy, which means if there's a copy, there's going to be a digital copy at this point in time.
There is no more National Archives. It's a myth, because right now, for the last 2 years, I've been trying to get information about my grandfather's service records from World War II, which were supposed to be released after 68 or 62 or 72 years. But you can't get here from there anymore because they're worried about people.
The military documents. Military archives, though, you're trying to access?
I just want to know where he was stationed. Is there any information? The one piece of information I got I'll share is that he was part of the Signal Corps. Did you hear about that division growing up? Was that offered? When they came in with the Army and the Navy and the Air Force, did they offer you, Andreas, a position in Signal Corps?
Yeah. When you're in high school, they did that thing where you could be part of this, like, and you did that. Is that what you're talking about? That program? Whereas you're a kid,
I'm just saying Signal Corps. It's like Space Force. It's
so
new, but no, it's really
no. When I was a kid, there was like, so one of my first merit badges was like the radio merit badge, and we had to like run radio sets for comms and things like that. We learned Morse code. No, I mean, they have a program that's literally, if you go through it, you're a private first class. If you decide to start the actual, if you enlist.
I call it the bathing suit area.
What is that called again? There's a name. Someone tell me if you remember the name for this program that they have. It's like cadets, or there's a thing. I didn't do it. A little Starship Troopers for me. I decided not to go that route.
And if we gave you plutonium, you'd make such a good bomb, wouldn't you? Yeah, right. That's from Clifford again. Just using
Clifford
the joke
was
for the second time.
Clifford's pretty good, I gotta say. But Chan Thomas was a geologist, and he did a lot of other stuff later in ESP and the story of cataclysms.
Electromagnetic expert, like the
pole shift.
Yeah, it's not interesting necessarily to read about until you find out what his alleged titles were,
right,
and what he was involved in. It's kind of like, wait a minute.
Yeah, he did.
It's like when I took AP Physics, it didn't include the electromagnetic portion. It was just the physics in motion, and it was I didn't know that you had to sign up for the electromagnetic, but otherwise, I would be just the whole pandemic. I would have been trying to make a microwave gun, but I just never learned to code. Learn to code was learn to be kidnapped. No, sorry.
There was a good
learn to code. No,
there was a good review. I don't know if I can find it now. Here is it here? This guy put it up somewhere. Hold on. It's the internet.
So while you're looking for that,
people, you can get a copy now.
Yeah, this guy Yon Urania wrote this good review, and it was like he talks a lot about how the 284 is when they finally found the original 1963 print. So now they have the full version of the book, and he goes into a systematic explanation of the 860-mile radius inner core, the 1,300-mile thick molten outer core. That's that.
You never put the disclaimer. You did the disclaimer on the last. You didn't put the disclaimer on this video.
Oh,
everything we say.
Oh
Wait,
God, no. This is like real though.
False.
This could cause like a loop in the space time. Because if they go into any of our podcasts and edit and say you have to remove this, all anyone has to do to figure out what the dangerous stuff is say, oh, what'd you guys mute? And go into the code to look for it. So they can't really clip anything out. They could take down the whole. They could ask you to take down by creating so much content and not indexing it. You're actually creating such a volume of content that someone would never really be. They would have to be smart enough to like watch all of.
Yeah,
Alex
that never
Jones
happened to Alex Jones, right?
Write his own book, but nowhere else will you read that.
Maybe we're not.
No one else
we're not supposed to talk about.
It's like 9/11 was a full-time job. Some people got paid, some people didn't. Some people get paid to watch.
It's been declassified, even though they didn't release the whole version of the book. We have it. I feel like we're fine. I mean, we can talk about the book at this point. I mean, they've released it,
and he would not deny that other people helped him assemble the truth that he had been uncovering since always, like already, which is a great immersion is a German phrase on
this part. This part's totally
look that up, you guys.
He published this though after he had done all the research as like a tell-all to the people, kind of like Adelaide Scanlon. But he coded his book. This was just
it's a money push during a bankruptcy filing. I'm not going to bother explaining that. But
the Andes Mountains were below to get as sea much level. Revenue on the books
because then they have to.
We have evidence of of whales that lived in the whale fossils were found at the top of the Andes Mountains. So that first part of it being at sea level or below, that's proven 11,000 years ago, 955 BC or 9550 BC. Astronomers, Potsdam Observatory in Tijuanaco, 60-mile thick shell of the Earth shifted its position once more in a fourth to a half of a day. So that's another thing.
There's a lot.
We also have this idea that there's been a magnetic shift. All this stuff, a lot of the guys' data has come to be considered true.
I think we should do like a whole episode on the book, possibly.
Yeah.
Go to Infowars.com.
There's a lot.
You can get an autographed copy, and your kids will eventually. That's gonna be the same signature. That's how Donald Trump had the very thick marker, and it was Alex Jones just practiced his presidential signature like 10,000 times on that book, and
right. I mean, no, it's good. It's the thing is the data is
if
important.
Alex Jones
Infowars does this already. Infowars
if Alex Jones was president
articles
right now, because if he was president right now, I think he did some announcement that it was fake. Right? No, but in Massachusetts, where would I get the information from? If the rest of the country had it. And instead of burying the East Coast below whatever, they just decided to ignore us. It's called Operation Binary Blackout. It was the one that came after Crimson Contagion. Was let the ivory towers believe and do what they want.
Oh, the ROTC. Thank you.
Yeah,
Brett said it.
ROTC.
Really? ROTC is for any Army program.
Yeah,
though.
but they had a
But
program
Stefan
if
was
you were into
talking about
communications and if
a
you did signal.
blackout of
It's still
information.
Brett
I
got it.
said ROTC.
Can you flash the
I
disclaimer?
took some
for, like, half
ROTC
a second?
classes.
Brett's not a girl, so I heard him. No, I was kidding.
We'll
But
pull
thank
up
you for
up
guessing.
it from the last.
Oh, Brett, yes, ROTC is what we called it. I had to disassemble and like
I've got a glow yoga music.
Do a
video,
ropes
too, that
course.
Andreas, or I
Brittany
can
was
link.
way
I'll put it in
clo-
the comments. That's what I'm gonna do.
Sorry, wait. What do you want to pull up? Which link?
So we're talking back to ROTC, but Stefan also had a point about a blackout when information wasn't given to one region and
It's
another.
the concept
had
of a black
access.
hole. It manifests on many levels. For a long time, magnetic north. Think about that. Once your society was settled and you were the generation that was building ships and going somewhere, someone was going to go north and follow whatever the magnet compass was pointing towards. And then there were towers with lodestones in them in India up at the top that were actually magnetic. The structure underneath them wasn't sufficient to support the metallic lodestone, but it was being held through. But it would bend the compasses. They would think they were going north and would show up and complain. They would write a real letter of.
What a gnarly hack.
But
You could be like, hey, haha, I
now that all
got
the
you guys
ice is
here now.
melted up there, there's 500,000 years of human boats that tried to go north and eventually froze or died up there, and they're all just at the bottom. But they're grave sites, so well.
I was talking about the media blackout, not black hole. or
Which
what-
media black?
I don't know. I thought you were saying that there was an operation, Stefan, that media.
Operation Binary Blackout. Again, it's on FEMA's website if you're interested.
There we go.
Let's pull it up. There we go. Operation Binary Blackout, Team Fortress, FEMA.gov, national level exercise. I can't find a Reddit thing. I can't find
And again,
actual.
binary. Look, it's clearly not gender binary. It's more than that, but we still call it binary blackout. And you just have to. So there was something called the Schmannerness Schmuck. Does anyone know what that rhymes with? And it's one of these things. Don't say it out loud but in there were things that could make you black out and be binary, but
Right, a black phone device.
it's been in the news a lot in
Okay.
Boston. It was something that was printed out on old laserjet print inkjet printers in the early 90s. And again, it was a compendium. It rhymed with what I said, and it was all the things that had been edited and retracted, and somehow someone put them together for high school.
Hard to find anything on
make
it.
every drug. And
I can only find people's like taking down videos on it. So probably
now when you go on the internet and type in how do I make Rohypnol, it gives you a fake recipe, whereas there's a hard copy version out there. Unfortunately,
I don't know if I've never tried to make Rohypnol. That's kind of
you thought Che Guevara in guerrilla warfare.
a little
was
bit
fast.
concerned, but oh,
yeah.
Again,
that's
this
your
guy right
biggest.
here,
That's your biggest
called
complaint,
Dan-
Stefan. I
Dan
can't
Demos.
make Rohypnol from internet recipes.
I was telling
Times
people
are
don't bother
changing.
trying is what I was trying to say.
Oh dear God, I'm teasing.
And again, if you are getting close to a gang in like culture of people that have the power of drugs like Rohypnol, by the time you think you're getting close to them, you're already turned up on your ass and hung up to dry. Like they just keep dosing you with something until you're either gone or gone or gone. And that's what happens. Society breaks down and people get stupid for one reason or another. Myself included, we stay blind to things. And then we have periods of awakening. During the one of the plagues, Newton sat in his basement and finally wrote out calculus, and some other guy did too, a few blocks away. But he didn't have anything else to do than sit and write. All his technology went down, and he just had to do it by hand.
Someone was talking about the coin recently, and I saw kind of an interesting article on that. Like remember how we're saying they're going to change the face of the coin because the queen's on the coin? Well, a 14-year-old whiz kid in Australia has cracked the code on a new 50-cent or 50-pence coin within hours of its release, prompting immediate interest from a spy agency. And so there's a bunch of data on the back here. He's
In
the first one to
America,
figure it out.
it's every 25 years you can redesign the currency, and then every 10 years with certain bills, but you can't do it before that potentially. And we've seemed to have broken those rules with the Nasari red, white, and blue bucks. But
A 14-year-old wizard could crack the code. The newly minted code contained 4 unique layers of code contained within messages about the ASD, Australian Signals Directorate. The coin was launched on Thursday. There's a challenge out there to see who can correctly break all the layers. And if you believe it, yesterday was cracked at 8:45 a.m.
well, now we're talking about the Queen, and you always drive me to the.
ASD
Yeah, but it's not
is
the Queen, it's like-
autism spectrum
Yeah.
disorder acronym.
You want to
which
hear
is-
something really messed up?
Right.
It's interesting, Brittany.
I was
Right.
recruited for British intelligence as a child. Can I tell a 10-second story like that, or do it after? Or
Sure.
so there's something called a song. A song goes, "London Bridge is falling down, and we used to sing it while playing Foursquare on my street, which was Carl Street in Charlemont, next to the Charles River. Anyway, so somehow at a young age, it wasn't apparent because I've asked my grandparents. Well, someone taught me that phrase, "London Bridge is falling down," is a secret code that would go out from the town crier. And when the Queen of England was sick and dying and or dead, we would hear that. And so there was a week where I was calling people, looking it up on Google, everything. No, you can't hear from there. These are not the drones or words you're looking for. But the day that she died, there were 5 new. I decided to type it in one more time. The code that went out over the London police blotter internal was "London Bridge has fallen."
Wow. And this
And I
is
went,
on Sun.
redemption.
They're even, this is confirmed. This is no
But how
conspiracy.
did I
This
know
is-
that? No one retaught it to me. I can't remember confirming it with
Maybe it
anyone, just
could
always
be
knowing
from
that that's what
London.
it meant. And
It's not even a
And
secret
that's what it
code.
meant,
It's a
but-
formal code that's everyone in
Martin-
Britain's supposed to know this.
yeah, like
You're
I
just
said,
not
we
supposed to
just-
say it.
Xirtus is hiding
What?
the time crystal. He
It's
did
a
it.
secret formal code for
Right.
all of.
Why is
Brits,
London
and
Bridge
then-
is down a secret code? The Queen
Yeah, and
died, but the
date it.
secret
What's
code
the
that
date?
informs the death
Find
of the
something
monarch.
that predates her death.
So
That's
we're not
it.
supposed to know, but they can know.
No, I mean
Okay.
that it's a. I mean,
I'm
I
just
don't
saying,
know.
What
it's
is
just-
what is knowing Brittany?
Let's go to news. Let's go to
Jesus.
past month is the only. It's like way too recent. I gotta go to like. How do you do search settings?
You can't.
Search by.
Again, they're, as you said, they're broken.
Busted out the big guns. Google News because I can't. use
Actually, if anyone could do it, it's like there was the winner of the Cannes Music Festival, which for decades it's put out mainstream, even big hits. For the last few years, you can't even find the winner, not even a clip of it. You can't find anywhere to buy it. You can't. Again, I'm sure Andreas could probably torrent but that for the average person to not be able to go on Google and find the film that just won
Really?
festival,
Did they cancel the festival for COVID then, or was there
these are
not
not
enough?
the drones you're looking for. Apparently, I'm not.
Hmm.
I have no explanation. for it.
London
I'm
Bridge
just
is
reporting
down.
the
A
fact.
secret plan for the days after the Queen's death, 2017. So there's that. 2017. I could go back further. Let's go review tools.
The last Queen's death. Did they have an article when the last Queen died that said?
So this is a
the bridge has
resurrection plant.
fallen.
So you guys keep looking. I'll tell a side joke while you're doing your research. This is a resurrection plant. It's all balled up, and when you put it in water, it stretches out and becomes green again within a day. But so my joke is, if this is a resurrection plant, what's this called? I said an insurrection plant. It's like Genesis. Sorry, too soon.
But-
Hashtag too soon.
Not bad. Well, is there a last story? You got another one, Stefan, that we should pull up
So okay,
in our 2 hours?
coming to you live on Stardate Mayan calendar such and such.
Oh, good call. We could do a star. Let's
but-
do a star route thing. By the way, in case people don't know the
Please
date.
keep all hands and feet inside the vehicle. And here comes bracket, insert show name title here, bracket, the Xirtusphere.
Insanity is an important factor to the
we
human
were going to
condition.
edit that out.
So here's the other thing I thought was ironic. So earlier we're like, what day is it going to be?
Mythography.
We're going to do a thing on Sunday. And then I was like, what day? And then Stefan's like, what day of the week is that? And Mayan calendar.
All the people that want to mentor me hate me right now. They're Che, the Che.
I always wanted to do like a Dove commercial for Che or like an Axe body spray because
So
he
his descendant
supposedly
is
smelled
running for
terrible.
But are you still trying? Is there a
He's
star
running for
year
mayor
that we
in
were
his na-
listing?
We're
How do you
going to,
pronounce
but he's on a
JREG?
tangent.
JREG is
sorry.
pronounced Tre, like Tre.
Right.
Tre.
Che is also Mapuche for
What?
person. It's like an indigenous, like before Spanish was the native language, they called Che as persons. But today's blue magnetic monkey, which is ironic because for me, I almost never try to do anything on a monkey day because it's like bad luck. It's not bad luck, but it's just the monkeys throw wrenches into things. It makes it crazy. You got to just kind of go with a monkey day. And I think
have you heard of the Reconquista, ladies and gentlemen?
The Reconquista.
Yeah, that's what it's called now. It's either siesta or fiesta. It's not COVID or emergency. It's either time to stay and chill and grow your community, fiesta, or
when
siesta.
I think of Reconquista, I
low.
just think about like the Spanish takeover, right?
Oh no, again. You can say that it hasn't happened, but
or is it just every day when people get up after
millions
their siesta?
of people flooding into our country to reclaim or just it's their family land, you know. They're just traveling. We put the borders there.
But you wanted a Mayan calendar link, so it is the.
But if you just declare amnesty
13.
universally, it's like the Emancipation Proclamation. We need the Emancipation Manifesto, like Russia did it, where they actually had laws. So, yeah.
But what is it? What is it about the Mayan calendar you wanted to point out?
Oh, that was just part of the intro. That again, we're here at the end of the video, and I just
The outro, the exit, the closing.
Yeah, sure. That is a good.
So
surmise of
celebrity
reality.
death match. Again, if you guys want to, we wanted to make a disclaimer, like celebrity death match, which was a claymation show that made the likeness of real celebrities and used their real names, but had a disclaimer at the beginning, say all names and likenesses were purely coincidental, even though
Celebrity Deathmatch is a pretty great show.
Oh gosh, that was funny.
Although it's really hard to get anyone who didn't live through this time to care.
Yeah,
because it's all about people that we didn't love at the time fighting
but it's
each
the
other.
irreverence. It's the irreverence of claiming you change the names and people. And so this is Joe Rogan before Joe Rogan was Mills guy.
Yeah.
He would go, "Let's get it on" at the beginning.
Joe Rogan was actually born in the world of Gumby, and he escaped one of the books.
No, he was born in my hometown.
That's right. Right. He's a Brightonian.
Or Newtonian.
Okay, well,
it
says
covered like okay. You're gonna keep going with this
I was
time?
gonna
All right, might as well.
I was gonna descript it because hey, we got this far and people are like, what? So I always use the star root Mayan Oracle. You type in Mayan Oracle.
So every video we should keep building up this like structure. And again, it doesn't have to be
structure. No, I would say this episode has about 75
announce the date
subtopics.
Like this.
But the blue magnetic monkey, I unify in order to play. I attracting illusion. I seal the process of magic with the magnetic tone of purpose. I'm guided by my own power doubled. Right. So we're going wherever we want to go. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. But we're following ourselves towards the magnetic tone of purpose. It's resonating with some point. At the end of this, we're probably going to go back and be like, wow, actually, theoretically, those were some of the most important topics that nobody wanted to cover on any
like
of their
this.
channels.
This is important. This is like fatherly. I'm a little older than you guys, and no one taught me this. I had to appreciate. It's not like learning to shave, but so this is called Guinness, and it comes in a can. It's a beer, but there's something special about this beer and the way that it's packaged. That's scientific in nature.
Nitrogen.
Yes, and it instant when you.
I knew where he was going right away. See, he's not a madman. He makes
lost.
sense.
They lost. We lost.
No,
them.
I get where you're going.
Yeah, I know you do. I know
sorry.
you do.
People only think people are crazy when they don't.
And I don't
understand
even
them.
give a fuck.
Yeah.
This is entertaining.
But
But so there's a little ball inside of here that when you pop the top, it instantly carbonates or actually nitrogenates.
Right.
So it's the closest thing to getting like a keg of beer and tasting it fresh off the tap is Guinness at home. Let it come to
Dude, it's
temperature.
liquid nitrogen because it's compressed, so it cools
So
it too.
I'll open it near the microphone. Ready?
Imagine a Japanese
You're
soda
gonna
pop.
Here we go.
Carbonate. Ready? Usually, it's like you have to pop the tops of your drinks before you start the podcast. It's like so rude to the sound engineers.
Oh, it was like silent. We barely even heard it.
Because it warmed up. It's usually, but so then you pour it out. You have
yeah.
to let it sit. There's something called the cascade in the glass. That was their whole pitch. Is there's this beautiful cascade of bubbles that eventually settles out, and then the top turns into like a loaf of bread that you. But this is, I know, Andreas and Brittany don't need the fatherly energy, but I get the feeling some people out in the audience may. So if I can't teach you to shave, but I can teach you why drinking Guinness is better than Bud Light, which isn't even American anymore. But just in case, you should have a 40 of Bud on hand at all times. Bud Light.
I don't know about that. That's terrifying.
What is that, low class drinking a 40?
Bundeswehr. No, I'm just always scared.
It's called
'cause this
economics. I'm Jewish. What do you want?
The kinds of weird synthetic yeast they use to eat malt syrups to make it excrete beer. It's an enzyme that produces beer out of drinking malt syrups.
And 1 can of Guinness fits perfectly in a Disney mug. How about them apples? Huh?
That's pretty sweet.
Wow.
Yeah, what is
But
the
right
metric on a
beer.
Disney mug? A Disney mug is like 500 milliliters. I think that's another weird. It's not the same as a cup. All right, guys, I love what we did here.
Wow, I had
bad.
so many little gags. Like, what's the guy with red hair, the comedian?
Carrot Top.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you give me 5 minutes, I'll run it off, or I can save
Give me at least one of them. I mean, hey, you can't just promise the Carrot Top like that.
So, like,
have you ever
what I
seen the
was gonna
Carrot Top
do
movie?
is talk about how Jews use scrolls, and then I have 5 different kinds of tape, and I'm in a really nervous way. I'm gonna draw all the diagrams. I'm gonna put it up on the wall, and then I've literally got 18 different kinds of hand sanitizer and wipes from the yoga studio, and I was gonna use all of them one at a time as I tried to explain the whole. I'll have to. Again, it's getting late. It's Sunday.
We should really, though, honestly, like force some
Inspired by
students.
Owen Schroyer's.
We should set
Dr.
that would
Fauci
be
character, or
that.
Dr.
That's very Sam Hyde. I want to take you to like a university.
He
we
works
should go to
behind the scenes, yeah.
We should go to MIT and have you do like a lecture to a
Take it
bunch of
on the
students
road.
that are expecting to be safe. All right, Brittany.
Before you go, Andreas,
I've talked about this.
I
I've
wanted
got
to
an
ask
architecture
you,
business.
what do you have going on this week in your schedule for your viewers that they can watch and tune into? I know I've been watching some of your shows and they are great.
Well, okay. Well, tomorrow is Base AF, but I'm going to probably try to do a thing with Richie McGinnis.
Base AF, and where can I find that?
Adam Krigler's channel, the greatest channel that ever existed. Besides Xirtus' channel, I think we're both pretty great. But Adam Krigler does a lot of great stuff. You can watch that all week, basically. Anytime I'm not doing a video.
Ghost of Darth Call stealing all your customers. That's all I'm saying.
Darth Call, the
they're not customers.
We look kind of the same if I sit differently. But.
Yeah. But you know where you can find me. I'm gonna have a
We're gonna get Andreas a job at a computer museum in California, and he's gonna make all these exhibits, and so
they have a
lot
support
of
him good exhibits at the computer.
Take you on the journey with us, you know.
But I got Think Tank, I got Wednesday Ultra, we've got like a MK Canada, can do an 8 p.m. advanced philosophy meme show, and Richie McGinnis, who was the witness for the Kenosha shooter and a good friend of mine, will be doing an interview this week. I have a couple other things planned.
Might do a lava line.
Yeah, well, hopefully you and I can do a
Friday.
lava line when you're ready on Friday. I think if you got some time.
Friday or Saturday, we'll see.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And,
so
as Eminem said at the beginning of his album, can I have your attention, please? Okay, I am going to attempt to drown myself. Remember, I forget how, but it's like we need a disclaimer at the beginning and end.
In his own ego.
Cover, but today we went pretty easy on the dangerous stuff. Again, tune into the previous episodes if you want to see the unknowable.
I am going to be working on doing
play part of the Glow Yoga music video with silence, and I'll sing
send me the link to it in the chat. I'll put it up. I am going to try to do something soon. I'm going to try to do like an hour version of my 2-hour shows on YouTube with the second hour on Odyssey or Rockfan or something uncensored, so that we can go harder and deeper. I don't know. I mean, a lot of the time I feel like we're actually able.
Edit your work is what all these experiences say. So again, we're good at, the goal is to be able to nail it freestyle for 2 hours and have it be something a little more organized than this without it being contrived. But it's going to
someone's trying to censor John Bear. Thank you, John Burt, for trying to do the smash and subscribe. I accept that. Everybody smash and subscribe. Thank you.
But again, editing, I would rather have Andreas editing one of these mind-bending hour-long mini documentaries than his podcast. So again, maybe the community needs to find a way to
dude, send me money for more robots, and I'll just keep
or to hire people to do it. So
the humans are good too, but robots, but humans, yeah, I'll take them both.
So you will play I'll set up what this video is as I actually pull it up and send the link as we speak. So there's something called the Sun A and the Sun B sequences, which are very basic yoga, vinyasa, burpee type things. And I somehow, by accident, came up with lyrics to a song where it's the actual words you would use to teach the yoga class, but it rhymes and it's to the beat. And so Glow Yoga has glow sticks and glow paint and black lights. And I have the video pulled up here, and now I shall hit share. And it is an example of one event that I did at a place that had just lost its liquor license. So they were looking to do sober events. But this is like kind of the peak of class after they've warmed up. This is kind of flowing flowing it out as they speak. And here it is in the chat. Let's see if I hit
The
paste.
family thinks I'm crazy. Says 2 nights in a row, Andreas has a weird guest with a weird. Oh, sorry, a guest with a weird hoodie. So
Weird is there's like
weird
it's
means
an acronym.
destiny.
It's an acronym for something about wealthy, educated, something industrialized. Anyways,
Weird. If you type in weird on Wikipedia, it takes you back to Veered, which means destiny.
so I
That's the
need
ancient
someone
English
who could.
concept.
There's the backbeat to this. I own the visuals and the words and the melody. Just the bass track behind this track is actually called Bassline by SYRE, and I just need
Every time I get involved with a
I wanna
bass
be able to
song, get
sell
in trouble.
this and perform this. So through the Xirtus sphere, perhaps someone out there will hear this and actually send me a lawyer's contact information, and I'll pay $1,000 to do an informational interview to figure out whether or not it's possible to even license this or any song.
That's cool. Look at this.
But so, yeah, there's a little bit of an intro, and yeah, without the music, it's kind of hard. But
Boom, boom, boom,
just let it run.
I don't know how it goes, but I could try and create a bass line.
Inhale, flat spine, shoulders roll back, eyes to the toes, way too. I literally usually would surprise my classes with it. I would play funky music and kind of talk the whole class, and then by the time you realize that your yoga teacher's singing to you and it makes sense and you're still following along, by the end of class you just had a good time, and
This
you
is
don't really
more
think
yoga
about
than
it.
rapping.
No one else in the world can do it. Yeah.
Look at that projector on you. Is that you? Like looking
Just play the
like you're in like a special world.
So
Wow.
I'm going to dump this link in the chat right now so that if you go look for it, you can find it in that, not the live chat comments, but in the actual
Next
chat.
time, why don't we do yoga like this?
yeah.
Let's do it. Set
That's
it up.
legit.
Yeah, we figured out I could put you on my phone, and it's literally
Well, I'll have a black. I can have a black
45-second
light.
walk out my front door to the studio, which is lit up with black lights. And one day, my friends, one day.
Black light yoga.
All I need is a black light and some glow sticks, and I can
And it's
virtually join you.
oftentimes beginner yoga means it's taught by beginner teachers, which is really the last thing you want. I designed glow yoga fusion, I call it, to be much more than just doing vinyasa in the dark. A lot of times you get the glow paint and the glow sticks and the whole setup, and then they just teach a regular freaking yoga class in the dark, basically. But I came up with partners exercises, group exercises to kind of really help break the format.
Yeah, that's sweet, man.
Sweet.
I can't wait. We should definitely do like an online yoga sesh. I think
We're
that's
gonna get
Yeah.
the whole yoga curriculum.
Imagine
instead of
how
having
crazy
to
that
go
is.
somewhere to do it. You
I'm
Imagine how
down.
much do all the things
Just
people don't. If we took over MTV, do you know that there would have been a yoga channel? It wouldn't have just been real world. There would have been like a yoga show for 20 minutes a day. I would have done that. All right, I promise you guys. If we take over Viacom,
Can I share my orange wire joke, or is that too risque?
Yeah, go for it. Whatever.
So when I go to YouTube and I'm not signed in, again, this is a short joke. There's one of the first
I was
comedy videos.
concerned, but I think it's fair so long as we remember that the people have a problem with it. You're the problem.
And
Yeah.
I'm not encouraging anybody to do this. I'm pointing out what happened to me and how it was
Societal
funny.
observation.
So the idea, though, that you, now that I've got the mic, I'm gonna milk it. Ready? 5 seconds. 5 seconds of dead air, and the engineers come rushing in, according to Alex Jones. So.
I mean, if you got a problem,
So,
you're going
again,
around
going
and
back
people are looking
to
at
where
you
we started.
funny. All you need is
got
an
it.
orange
But
wire.
Putin's
If you have an
joke-
orange wire,
Putin's
people
joke
think you're
to
cool.
America is that we're gonna, and to Ukraine, the threat is outside of nuclear. We're gonna make your currency into a collector's item. Go ahead and let's see how that sits.
If you have a Raspberry Pi in your pocket and you go into an airport, they look at you funny. That's happened to me. But I
But
only
YouTube-
imagine.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say if you have an orange wire and it's going, and you just have just the orange wire for no other reason, right?
So the orange wire is the second half of the joke. The first half of the joke is they say Alex Jones is the one whose audience is suggestible, and he's encouraging them through even just covering certain things. Well, again, YouTube itself does a pretty good job of monitoring content. But the first thing that always shows up is, again, when I'm not logged in. So this is what they show to most people coming in cold, is a comedy routine called Bike Locks Should Be Illegal. And it's a short bit about how he goes to a sweet green and just does this. And he's like, now what? And you just like, he doesn't do anything bad, but he talks about people just, right, they all come to the glass and they're like, wait, you put the lock on the, how do we, it's like, I don't know, this exists though. How does this not happen? Like more often. But so I find myself sometimes, as my battery on my phone gets degraded because of the software algorithm they're running on it, I have an auxiliary battery pack that I can hook my phone into. And usually I won't put them in the same pocket so it doesn't scratch the surface of the screen of the phone. But there was an orange iPhone cable that they sold at that place. It was just, but I noticed that it was, eventually I was wearing a zip down, and in one pocket I had my phone, and in the other pocket I had the battery pack, and going across the middle with the zipper was this orange wire, fluorescent orange wire. And just thinking the suicide vest, again, both of those words are probably, but it's like if someone came up to you, if you were authority figure trying to search someone and they had an orange wire going from one pocket to the other, and they said, yeah, go ahead, unzip it. Allah Akbar. I mean,
well, yeah, if you throw in the
he's been waiting to go to heaven for some.
That once you take it to that place,
Well,
I mean,
but
otherwise it
because
could
wearing
be,
a turban
because if
doesn't
it's
mean
me, I'm always like,
you
hey,
have to-
dude, I've got a Raspberry Pi in my pocket, because I have a Raspberry Pi in my pocket probably at least like 16
I thought you were just
hours
happy
of
to
the
see
day.
me, Andreas. I mean,
Yeah, but yeah, if it's just a wire by itself, I feel like it kind of leaves something to be.
it's just a way to throw like a red herring out there. It's like, here, your training didn't teach you to deal with this, did it?
I see where you're going. I'm gonna put the video on.
I was a sharpshooter at camp, and it meant that I literally from 50 feet put a 22 with a non-scope sight through a quarter, dude.
Ooh, you should put it on a necklace.
From 50 feet
Wow.
with no scope when I was like 14, dude.
I was a sharpshooter, but it was with the Nikon. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later. Have a good night. Base.
The world is very different now. For man holds in his mortal hand the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
Begins a very special time of the year for us. It's the time of peace and reflection. One thing we should all be thankful for is that we live in America, where we have the freedom to change things and the opportunity to grow.
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
That you will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
And will, to the best of your ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.